steps up and throws to the end zone, and Dixon is in. Touchdown.
This is 365 Sports, powered by SicEm365.com.
Here's Gordon again. Jump cut in the hole. Bust it to the outside. And Gordon diving for the end zone. Touchdown, Oklahoma State.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Now the throw across the middle. That was caught. And on a broken tackle, J.P. Richardson. Touchdown.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
And here's Green. He's going to keep it. And Green breaks loose. Garrett Green across midfield and forced out of bounds at about the 25 by D. Winters.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
Lance Leipold's group with the 14-zip lead on Matt Campbell's Iowa State team. And Jalen Nolan is out to the races. Down the sideline. Noel tripped up inside the 5.
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
R.J. Harvey, direct snap. He keeps it, and now UCF has a touchdown to start the ball game.
Now here's David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
All right, here we go on a Tuesday. Some quarterback decisions made either late yesterday and some even today. We'll get to that. Also, the new trend in college football, and of course there are many, about the general manager position that has a lot of people in college football talking. And in fact, one of our guests, Tony Syracusa, no, not the former player, but from Last Word on College Football, will join us today at 4 with some of that. Taylor McHargue, former Rice quarterback, on some of these quarterback decisions. And later on, Stephen Weissman covers Duke. That's one of the programs that had a quarterback decision. Craig's off the radar, Paul's top 5, John McClain, Mickey Spagnola, and thank you for being a part of 365 Sports. So those two dudes on the set, to the left is Craig Smoke. To the right is, I think, Paul Catalina. And he's even so good that he's on the set and also standing up at the same time.
Oh, you're not watching what's on the screen. You're watching Jack.
I know.
Edit something.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Oh, okay. All
yeah.
right.
No.
Oh, that's fine. No, that's okay. Now, DeQuan Finn, Baylor quarterback, is in fact, and not a surprise, named the starter. Competition with Sawyer Robertson, the former Mississippi State transfer. DeQuan Finn gets the quarterback one start against Tarleton State, which is 1 week from Saturday at home against Tarleton State for Baylor at McClain Stadium. Now, I've got a couple of nuggets on this, and we can discuss it, but this is not by any means. Most of these decisions we're about to tell you, none of them are like, wow, he got the job, and including DeQuan Finn, no matter what Sawyer Robertson tried to do with the competition to make it a tough decision.
Yeah, it was I think DeQuan Finn's been taking most of the first-team reps in fall camp anyway, and more as each passing day went on. To the scrimmage this weekend where I think he took all of the first team snaps from what I've been told. So yeah, this was in my mind inevitable. And the difference with there being a legit quarterback battle, and this isn't kind of like Gary Bohannon and Blake Shapen. This to me is a different situation because Dave Aranda's not in a position where he can just let DeQuan Finn work it out. Like if they lose games because of the quarterback position, Sawyer Robertson's going to get a shot because, it's now or never for the Bears. And, if DeQuan Finn works out, that's great news. If he doesn't, then they have Sawyer Robertson and we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, you brought in DeQuan Finn and invested heavily in him to be the starting quarterback. So any result outside of DeQuan Finn being the starting quarterback, I think would have raised some eyebrows and probably been a bit concerning outside of Sawyer Robertson just impressing so much that he's able to blow away DeQuan Finn and become the starting quarterback, which if that were the case, I think there would have been signs that he was ready to be your starting quarterback to begin with, and wouldn't have been as necessary to go and get a guy of DeQuan Finn's caliber because you didn't just go get a quarterback. You got a conference player of the year. So I think the move that was made originally was to end up in this place where he was your starter entering 2024. And so here we are, and that's that. Although I think Sawyer Robertson made it a much longer battle than people anticipated and made it a much tougher battle than maybe even DeQuan Finn anticipated. And so Sawyer will undoubtedly play this year because it's been 10 years, give or take, but about 10 years where Baylor in particular has had to use more than one starting quarterback. So if I'm Sawyer Robertson, I'm staying ready because odds are I'm going to play, and odds are I'm probably going to start at some point if recent history, as in the last decade, is any indication. So he needs to be ready to go, just like any other backup quarterback around the country. But I think he understands, and DeQuan Finn, show us what you got, man, because they spent good money and made a big decision in making you the guy that they went after and making you the guy that they wanted to go invest and bring in here to help save Dave Aranda's job in so many ways. So let's see what he's got, because he's definitely electrifying.
Some of what I have been able to kind of digest over the last few hours from those who are kind of around the program or who know enough about it that they can kind of give me some feedback. One of them, there's no question DeQuan Finn, Sawyer Roberts is a really good athlete, but DeQuan Finn has the ability to extend plays and make what is just getting out of bounds for a gain of 5 or 7 yards, instead of being sacked or losing a yard or two, a chance to take it the distance anytime he starts to run. That also then makes him vulnerable if he's not careful. Pretty big guy, of course, of injuries. He will actually, unlike most quarterbacks who have tremendous athleticism to run and escape, he will not immediately take off, which you see from some quarterbacks. When the first, I guess you could say, option is not open, he will wait a little longer, and that's one of the strengths, of course, with him. Now, he doesn't throw the ball like a Tom Brady. He doesn't throw the ball, nobody does, or the perfect throwing motion. He, at times, not even the best, what you would think, pure thrower, passer. But he does have the ability to get the ball to where it needs to go, and has had a pretty good fall camp. Now, one of the other things about him is that you can't teach what he has, the ability to run. There's certain guys that have it. RG3 had it. I'm not comparing him to RG3, but certain guys have it. Nobody had it probably better than Vince Young when he took off from the pocket. There will be some design runs, no doubt about it, and because of that, Paul and Craig, the defense has to be careful to have one more person possibly in the box, which then, if they can and get something out of it with not just the running game, which is still kind of a question mark, but that also means the secondary, that could lead some one-on-one opportunities for the receiving core, which I'm told their front line's pretty good, but the depth at the wide receiver position is very much a fragile situation.
Yeah, I would say that past the Ashton Hawkins and Hal Presley's of the group, there's not a lot of proven commodities there, and there's a lot of walk-ons. So or guys who used to be walk-ons.
Baldwin, Presley, Cameron, Hawkins, and Ketron Jackson too, who's been a little bit in and out. But those are the guys. That's the front line of their receiving.
But after that, you've got more questions than answers. So if they can get some guys loose, and look, the most successful Baylor's ever been is when they were running an offense that made you have to account for a running quarterback. Robert Griffin was a running quarterback, obviously. Bryce Petty and Seth Russell both were pretty good at getting first downs. Nick Florence once had a 77-yard run. I didn't want to leave him out of this in case he sees it, but I don't think he would go bragging about his dual threat ability most of the time.
I'll worry about the wide receiver depth once I stop worrying about the actual starting wide receivers. They need to show me something first. Monterey Baldwin's had flashes. Ashton Hawkins is a guy who you think is going to be pretty good, but, we still need to see it. And so I think, if it gets to a point where they're worried about the 6th and 7th wide receiver, then I guess it'll depend on why you're worried about that. Hopefully it's not because of injuries, and hopefully it's just more of a – well, that'd be nice to have a luxury of having as deep a wide receiver room as possible. But if the combination of Ashton Hawkins and Monterey Baldwin and Ketron Jackson and Hal Presley, and then even sprinkle in a freshman like Jaden Porter, if that can't get the job done, then I don't know what's going wrong with this team, and it's a much bigger issue than just a wide receiver room.
Yeah, no question. Yeah.
So, that's like down the list of my concerns because – other things need to fall in place that are far more important. But yeah, certainly. I mean, I don't know, man. I think Monterey Baldwin's a pretty damn good player. He should be more consistent if you really want to raise his talent levels all the way to 10 across the board. I mean, consistency would be one of those things that you'd bump up if it were like a video game. Beyond that, I don't know. He's pretty good. I mean, Ketron Jackson needs to show it at this point. But, Hal Presley's in that same boat as well. So there's definitely some proving to do. But I think you like Baldwin. I think you like Hawkins. You need the big receivers, though, to step up and be big receivers for you.
And it wouldn't hurt if a Jayden Porter, freshman from Lorena, made some plays, too, among Burton. And there's a few others, of course, Bonner, that are also a part of this roster. Now, one thing about Sawyer Robertson, one of the things that he does battle, he knows this, and it's something that he has to try to work through. He has the ability to throw it. He has pretty good athleticism, big, tall kid in the pocket. But one of the things that occurs with him is if he starts to practice off poorly, it's hard for him to dig himself out of that, like to snap out of it. And one of the things that you need is consistency at that position. I'm not saying he has bad practice after bad practice. One of the things that is that kind of sometimes you want not all you always want is consistency. But if he starts off poorly, it seems like he can't again get out of the rut, and then comes back the next day and might look like an All-American. So those are things that he has to work through, and is something that again, when the decision was made, I guarantee you, he probably was calling Coach Spavital, among others, to try to figure out what else do I need to do. That's the kind of player that he is, to make sure, and disappointed because of the decision. He felt like he could be QB1 heading forward. Now, and both players, I'm being told that both players are very much appreciated and respected and loved inside that locker room, which is also very, very important. Now let's get to the offensive line, and then we get to the other quarterback decisions. The first scrimmage was a nightmare. Right? No one said that word, but that first scrimmage, I told you what Mason Miller had that look in his eye when he had his his head in his hands. It was better in the second scrimmage, but they're going to have to make sure that they set up their offense to use whatever is the positive among these offensive linemen. And Alvin Ebasole, is that right, Craig? Ebasole is someone that is obviously a very big piece of that offensive line. Barrington, Ebasole might be someone you got to be careful about making him move around too much because of his size, but they absolutely have to lean on Barrington and a few others, which would be nice because the Barringtons last year I thought had just kind of a year. Of course, the offensive line in general was not very good at all. So there we are with a lot of that as far as the decision with DeQuan Finn and Sawyer Robertson, for me doing a little bit of due diligence since that, well, even before the decision came down. Cincinnati is going with Brendan Sorsby. He transferred from Indiana. He is now the starting quarterback for Coach Satterfield, Scott Satterfield, and also the Bearcats. This is not a surprise. He came from a Power 4 school. He's a part of a Power 4 school with Cincinnati. He gets the nod. Finished last year with 19 touchdown passes and 5 picks for the Hoosiers.
Yeah, clearly he can be efficient, and Scott Satterfield told us good things about him, and that, really the world hasn't seen all the things that he can do based on how they struggled in Indiana last year. So we'll see. Cincinnati's got a long way to go. They've got to build. They got to build that up. But if he can get them, off on the right track, I think last year with Emory Jones, they just had a guy that was super athletic, but man, he's an adventure. And if they can get somebody, again, 5 interceptions, maybe not as much of an adventure, and that's probably what they need right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's a situation in Cincinnati right now where I think the good news is that there are no real expectations. I mean, at least from the outside, I don't think Cincinnati is a team that gets off-mentioned right now because of the transition from Luke Fickell and just the bad year last year opening in the Big 12. So that's cooled them off immensely to the point where, I think people need to be reminded that they're in the league sometimes, honestly. I mean, they just kind of fall through the cracks. And I know part of that's just the regionality as well. And that was one of the concerns if you were a Cincy fan, just in general about moving conferences. Obviously, you took the payday and the bigger stage and everything, but I think they're just very much finding their footing. And I think that's the case for all the new schools still. I mean, we'll see with the Pac schools, but I think in terms of, BYU was a struggle last year. Mm-hmm. stands to be a struggle again this year. Houston, it was a struggle last year. Stands to be a struggle again this year. And who am I missing there? Cincinnati. And UCF, it was an okay year. You made a bowl game, so that was better than the rest of your brethren, and you expect to be better this year. So they're the one that's on the best track. Cincinnati, I don't know where they are in terms of the progression to getting where they want to be, but he's a Texas kid. So always like to see Texas guys succeed, and good for him on winning the starting job. I think the luxury you have is, you're just not rolling in with big expectations right now. So you can kind of fly under the radar and, just kind of build things up, and hopefully Sorsby is the answer to some of their questions. But I know this was one of those things that we were looking forward to just seeing all these different quarterback battles shake out. So I'm excited to see that some of these are now being decided, and look forward to seeing what Sorsby can do for the Bearcats. But there are not a lot of people that I think are, putting them too much higher than the bottom four in the Big 12, along with, Baylor, BYU, Houston, Arizona State. Maybe those schools are kind of the ones that are going to have to prove people wrong.
No, they have. There's a clump of 6 or 7 teams that everybody has as the bottom 6 or 7. This was a great quarterback competition. Preston Stone will start at SMU. Kevin Jennings, who's also very talented, kid from Dallas, he will be QB2 and also get some playing time when they open up their season. Rhett Lashley making that decision. Stone, by the way, has been named to all the various quarterback watch lists. A very, very good player. 3,197 yards in his career, 28 touchdowns, and he led them, of course, to a hell of a year back in 2023. But it was Jennings who played in the bowl game and was very productive for the Mustangs and Lashley.
Yeah, not a surprise to me, Craig.
I don't think this was ever – I'm sure Jennings made it a competition, but with Preston Stone coming back, I didn't ever think that he was not going to be the starting quarterback. Kudos to Jennings for, making it more of a competition maybe than I expected, at least. Can't speak for everybody else, obviously, but, Preston Stone's a pretty good quarterback, so him coming back by default, I just imagined he was always going to be the guy, and so he is, and that's what I expected all along. Good to see it made official, and he'll have the honor of, being the guy that leads them into the ACC, so long as he can stay healthy enough for the, first couple of weeks. But, again, as I said yesterday, I don't know how much interest there is nationally in SMU or even regionally for that matter, but I am looking forward to just seeing, that early game against Florida State and kind of seeing how this breath of fresh air that is this new conference and being on a stage they feel like they deserve to be on after all these years. I wonder, what that's – or I'm looking forward to seeing what that looks like. And if they're wildly successful early on, then that could mean a little something and would be kind of interesting. But if not, I'm sure people will just go back to not really caring that much.
It's a good problem to have when you have Jennings as your backup, who got a lot of snaps and a bunch because of Stone injured at the end of the year, but also not always available during the spring. By the way, Eric said something about Monterey Baldwin as a playmaker. His last 2 years have been close to identical. 36 catches, 623 yards, 4 touchdowns. The year before, 33 catches, 565 yards, 4 touchdowns. He is a playmaker. There were times they just couldn't get the ball to him. He's not real thick, big. He's an inside receiver, and he has to try to also get himself free and open. So with what they have with Hawkins coming in, that might be something a secondary has to worry about, both of them, if they ever line up at the same time. Malik Murphy, transfer from UT because of their quarterback room being so good and so thick and so deep. Well, he's now the starter at Duke. Not a surprise here either. He will open up against Elon. They open up the game. Open up the season. He started 2 games last year for Texas against BYU and Kansas State, but he now has been named the starter. We'll have Stephen Weissman, who covers a lot of the ACC in that North Carolina area. He'll join us today in the 4 o'clock hour. All right, one more. Lincoln Riley has named Miller Moss as the starting quarterback. Not a surprise. There's other schools, but these are some of the ones highlighted. He's the one that had the huge bowl game, 6 touchdowns, nearly 400 yards passing in that win for USC in the bowl game. He's now the starter. And, man, you just think about all the quarterbacks who have been in and out of that system, from Malachi Nelson to Jackson Dart to everybody else. Lincoln Riley has his guy, and his starting quarterbacks have been what? Caleb Williams, Baker Mayfield, Jalen Hurts, Kyler Murray, and I'm missing one in there somewhere.
Spencer Rattler.
He has had some some absolute studs at the quarterback position. Miller Moss is the starting quarterback going into the year for USC.
You know, Spencer Rattler was really the only – well, I mean, Spencer Rattler was very highly touted coming in, as you knew, and Craig can speak to this a lot more. But Miller Moss is the first one that doesn't come in as close to a surefire thing as anybody else that he's had in his career. You know, and look, Miller Moss is clearly talented. He had that great bowl game, and there's all this, but there are far more questions about Miller Moss than any other quarterback that Lincoln Riley has ever coached, I think.
He was a 4-star, nearly top 100 guy. So, I mean, he wasn't a 5-star, top 10 guy, I guess is what you're getting at there as far as super elite guy, but he's still pretty elite. And I don't think anybody playing quarterback for Lincoln Riley is not going to be. But, yeah, I mean, not as heralded as the most heralded guys, but still pretty heralded. And, yeah, he had a fantastic bowl game to end the year and really made a name for himself and made a lot of noise. And, I sent them off into the postseason on a high note as far as his potential goes. So, yeah, I'm excited to see more of him because he put on a hell of a show. And then with Malik Murphy, I thought, the logjam at Texas was eventually going to have to give way and didn't see where he had an opening really outside of just injury. So we got to see a little bit of him. And I'm excited to see what he can do at Duke with that opportunity and being the man there at Duke is going to be, I think, very interesting. So, yeah, I like both of these, or I expected both of these moves, and it's good to see them made official, and I'm excited to watch both these guys.
When I mentioned the names of Kyler Murray, Jalen Hurts, Caleb Williams, Spencer Rattler, Baker Mayfield, some of them, but all of them could get out of trouble. All of them had the ability to be mobile. Obviously, Kyler Murray, Hurts, and Caleb Williams could absolutely fly and run. Mayfield's very mobile. That's why he's still playing in the NFL and because he was very good about kind of getting that extra second or two or take it off to pick up a first down. And Rattler could do that, too, before he transferred, and at South Carolina at times. So he's doing pretty well in the preseason. Seems like he's had a pretty good start to his career. At least I know it's preseason, but he's made some plays already there.
He might be someone, and this happens rarely, but is more suited to be an NFL quarterback than he is to be a college quarterback, if that makes any sense.
Well, probably it can
lots
happen.
of guys are one or the other,
yeah. Like it just suits him maybe better.
Yep.
So personality wise,
I'm looking forward to see what Malik Murphy could do. I thought he handled everything incredibly well when he was at Texas and when he had to play when Ewers went down. Colorado had a special teams coach that just all of a sudden was gone. I saw with Brian Howell, who writes and covers Colorado. Trevor Riley was the guy who was overseeing their special teams, no longer with the program. And there was been no comment whether he resigned or was let go. But remember, we mentioned George Hilo last week was picked up by Deion Sanders. That is the position he will take as far as the staff number to replace Trevor Riley, who is no longer at Colorado. Oklahoma State, how about this? A QR code on their helmet. So a normal human being that's watching the game on television, at the stadium, anywhere else, can get on the QR code and give them or donate to that specific player's NIL fund.
I mean, good for the players. Jack and I talked about this earlier. This kind of makes me die inside a little. I mean, fine. If you want to do this, if you want to give your money to the players, I think they earn it, they deserve it. I'm not going to, if you guys want to put a QR code on all three of us and send us money, I guess I wouldn't. I wouldn't be opposed to it.
I'll tape it on my forehead now.
I don't know. It's a bit much, I guess.
I don't tip cashiers. I'm not going to tip the players.
Yeah, I just would like to be able to watch a game without being asked to give money to somebody at a university.
Yeah.
You can't even watch the game now without, in so many roundabout ways, being asked to donate while you watch the game, mind you. I think it's a cool idea technology-wise. I'll point out what a lot of other people have pointed out. This is the same Mike Gundy that just days ago was talking about how
Absolutely.
no more money talk, and the season started, and yet here we are less than a week later, and basically Oklahoma State's promoting the fact, or being promoted to, have these QR codes to pay players. So it's just, kind of funny that he's the other day was shutting down all that talk, and now here they are getting a little bit of spotlight for just that. They're not the first to put, Deion in Colorado were doing the QR code thing on jerseys. I think Oregon's done it. I know UCF's done it, I think. So the QR codes on uniforms are not entirely brand new, but it's a cool idea. It's cool technology. And if you're somebody that, is watching Ollie Gordon run and you decide to put your phone up to the screen and send him $1,000 or something, then more power to you. I can guarantee you I will never make one of these donations, during the QR code, but I know that there's probably a lot of people that will. So, good on Oklahoma State for being forward thinking. And again, I just marvel at the technology we've got now. If you were to tell people about all the things about college football going on, some of them would probably grasp their or clutch their pearls, or just wonder what the hell is going on in today's age. But it's one thing to talk about expanded playoff or conference moves, another thing to try to explain to people from the past about QR codes on helmets and sending donations through your phone, and it's just wild. That part of it to me is just so interesting. But yeah, that's a great idea for trying to get more money donated, although you're definitely wanting to focus on the season at this point.
I didn't send this to you, Jack, but Amanda Kristovich of Front Office Sports said, if you're an agent, quit calling us and asking for more money, but it's time to focus on football. She was taken off with Gundy, what you mentioned. Yeah. But if you're a fan, feel free to scan the NIL QR code and on the backs of our helmets and contribute to giving the program and players money.
Basically, Mike Gundy says, quit asking me, ask them.
Yeah.
Or don't ask me, just go do it. Is basically I probably what he's hoping for, at least. But yeah, that's cool technology. And I will say, though, again, I wonder where they're going to take it next. Not Oklahoma State, but just in general. Now you're just watching the game and it's basically saying, pay me. You know what I mean? Everything's about paying the players now. Everything for so long was about not paying them, or at least not acknowledging paying them. And now everything, even the uniforms, the patches, the QR codes, it's about paying players as well. So it's definitely a different world.
All right. Also, let's get to one of the bigger stories, too. We had a lot of quarterback information, but Courtney Morgan, who was at Washington with Kalen DeBoer, now at Alabama, he was being courted by, I believe it was USC, was one of the schools talking to him. He got a new contract. I saw where Mike Rodak was writing about this yesterday. $825,000 a year as the general manager of Alabama. He's a star in the personnel business, a leading figure when it comes to front office space and what people are doing these days. And so now when you get all that extra money, of course, some of it, a lot of it, a big chunk of it will go to the players with revenue sharing. You also need even more, because if you have Courtney Morgan making $825,000, and by the way, Courtney, damn good for you, man. Congratulations, and anyone else. But doesn't he have a staff underneath him? Mm-hmm. And that's now another department with new salaries that probably could end up, I don't know, with $1 million or $2 or $3 added to the budget.
Yeah, good for them.
And Alabama won't blink.
Yeah, and this is where when if you're a P4 school, and I know this is not a blanket statement because some do, but if you're telling me that you don't have enough money to do things, then I'm not going to be likely to believe you, because the part of their defense all this time is there's no money out there. There's no money out there. Where's this money going to come from? And then you're like, well, I mean, you pay these people a lot of money. That's like four college professors that have been there for 30 years at Alabama, right there, maybe 5. People have been working a very long time doing research. That's what that salary is right there. So let's not pretend like you don't have money. Now, if you're somebody else, then yeah, I get that. But yeah, nobody in the SEC, Big Ten, or most anywhere else should ever be like, what are we going to do?
I don't think they've ever done that, though, Paul. I don't know.
Well, Greg Sankey's out there saying, I know kids want to pay taxes. Like, they do.
Yeah, I mean, that's the old head. Yeah. Like, that's the argument when you know that they're just not being all that honest about it. But I don't think anybody in the SEC's cried poverty lately. I feel like that complaint has come from smaller schools, and I don't know, all it takes is a half a second and a connection to the internet to see what the SEC is making as far as per team goes. Even the teams that don't really provide that much value are making more than teams that provide much greater value in different leagues. So, yeah, the crying poverty thing, I don't think many do that, but that is interesting if that's something that Sankey's trying to portray. So take that how you will. But, yeah, I mean, this guy's a star in that part of the industry, and the industry continues to expand, including to all of these various off-the-field roles. And I could tell by the reaction that this was a big get for Alabama because he was being looked at by, I forget the school. Did you mention that?
USC.
USC,
I
yeah.
believe it was USC.
So
yeah.
USC was right on that cage a little bit, and, Alabama fans seemed thrilled by the report that they were hanging on to him because of the role that he plays. So obviously a big, a big signing, or I guess a big deal to have him stay on board. I guess what I'm trying to say.
It's a trend.
Yeah.
It's a new trend, and you see personnel people and the GMs being named, and how that all works, and how the coach and who's going to make the decision. I would think that if Oklahoma State, and they have somebody, but the head coach in football is still going to be the decision maker. In the NFL, it's the general manager along with the head coach, who it depends on how much clout he has, like Sean Payton or someone like that. How much will the general manager have when it comes to recruiting as far as making decisions on the players they actually take, or is it just a suggestion?
I think it's going to vary coach to coach, program to program. The coach is going to be, the way I see this is that most athletic departments, and the way it'll run is that the athletic director is like the board of directors. He's over here.
Well, how's the general manager going to work?
The coach is is essentially the GM when it comes to who he wants and all that. And the GM is, maybe this is more like a Will McClain situation where, he goes in and tells the coach, these are the guys that you want to look at, but ultimately the coach is going to decide.
Well, again, he's making $825, which is fantastic. Kalen DeBoer's making probably double-digit millions. So that also has a lot to do with who has the clout to make the decisions. But he relies on this young man to help him, and I think it's great that this is a new part of. I know that this another level of it, but hey, these guys have been helping with decisions for a long time.
I'll call it like a Belichick-Parcells model, where they're really making the decisions, but they've got a general manager who aids them in that.
Craig, if you'll remember, Bill Parcells said, if you want me to cook the meal, I want to buy the groceries.
Yeah, that was his take on it.
Yep.
Kalen DeBoer is his own man, so I don't know how that all is divvied up in the Alabama offices, and I don't imagine that it's the same there as it is everywhere else. But pretty soon, everybody who can is going to have a GM of some sort, and the bigger schools will have more of the high-profile guys whose names I guess we get to learn now, and certainly we'll learn of some rising stars, and I think that'll be a nice landing pad for former head coaches or just guys from other parts of the game that find their footing in that area of things now. So yeah, that's something that's now a part of the fabric and will be even more so moving forward with this being the player era. So yeah, it's good to have a guy to help wrangle some of those responsibilities that have grown wildly over the last couple of years. I think that's the biggest thing, is you can't be Kalen DeBoer and do everything the way that you could do it a few years ago. You have to have other people helping you out. So he's clearly one of the stars in that role in college football right now. Good for Bama to fend off the Trojans. And I think, each unique partnership will be unique and be different than, what somebody else at some other school's doing. So hard to say what his role is versus what Kalen DeBoer, says is the last word.
He was with DeBoer at Fresno State when DeBoer got his first FBS job. He was on the plane when DeBoer landed in Tuscaloosa to take the job to replace Nick Saban. So there we are. Now, I remember James Blanchard, who's now at Tech, who was at Baylor for a while, in the NFL with the Carolina Panthers. His deal, I believe, was reported at 2 years, $800,000. And here's Morgan getting $825, so you're going to start to see those salaries jump. But obviously it depends on the money that is also available. UTSA, here is the new look for them. They're not every week, but this is part of a new look for them. Black and white. But I like the back of their helmet. It has San Antonio on it. There's the Roadrunner, UTSA in the front. But there's the new look. I saw a note from somebody on these uniforms. If your school colors do not include what is on your uniform, then should it count? And this
is different.
It's different.
It's not
You're not going to see Alabama and Texas do this.
No.
But UTSA with the black and white look.
But remember, if you're mad about this, they're not doing it for you at all.
That's exactly right.
They're not doing it for you at all. They're doing it because it's going to help them recruit. It's going to help their apparel partner make more money. You ever watch the NFL when they do the color rush? They're not doing it for you. They're doing it because some idiot's going to go, ooh, I want that.
Yeah.
Here's my $212. Boom.
Yep.
Remember those Steelers jerseys that were just so awful?
The
like
prison
the
ones?
throwbacks that
Yeah.
looked like Bumblebee. Like,
Bumblebees.
I was a Bumblebee in jail. That they didn't do that because they thought it was cool. They thought like, wow, there's some idiots in Pittsburgh that are going to give us $200.
Well, if it does sell and it's more money, more revenue, and then that's exactly what they're going to do.
Yeah, it's a nod to the Spurs, clearly with the color scheme there, and also cool to see the San Antonio skyline on the back of the helmet. That's a nice look. I saw a couple people that weren't the biggest fans of these, but I like them. I think they look sharp. It's hard to go wrong with black and white, black, silver, and white. So I like the incorporating the pro franchise in town and just doing something a little bit different. I'm sure they'll likely wear these at a night game, blackout game would make a lot of sense. Don't know off the top of my head what the schedule looks like, but I could definitely see that being incorporated for, one of their bigger conference matchups. So yeah, I like them. I think that they're sharp and a nice alternate to the, typical orange and blue, especially given that there's a reason why the colors make sense in San Antonio.
Well, with the Spurs connection, you're right. I'm glad you brought that up. That absolutely makes sense. Coming up, Taylor McHargue, former Rice quarterback, college football analyst. He'll join us today. Tony Syracusa, last word on college football. Stephen Weissman, who covers the Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina area on Malik Murphy and Duke and some of the other quarterback opportunities that now have been settled. This is 365 Sports. Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress in Robinson, Texas, is my dentist. Proud to say that. And an amazing friend, too, because we talk about a lot of things in life when I'm there with him, and he has shared some of his story, too. And along the way, it's allowed us to get really close. And also the trust level that I have already with what he's done with my dental work is there from the first time I went to see him. The first time I went to see him, and I had a couple of issues that he fixed pretty quickly. I have been there for, I wouldn't say emergency, but I've been there when one night on a Friday when I went in to bite into a sandwich and it felt like my right-hand side of my jaw had fallen off. And he came to the office that evening, told me to meet him there while he was at dinner with his wife, and he went over to the dentist to give me a little bit of a quick fix to get through the weekend and then fix the problem on a Monday morning. That's the kind of customer service that he provides. Stonewood Dental with great hygienists, and if you need just something with your teeth cleaning, they do that. If you need something a little more severe, if it's a root canal, a tooth pulled, reconstructive surgery, they do that. And then they also give you a game plan of what will be a problem pretty soon and how they can try to prevent it from getting worse. Stonewood Dental. My dentist is Dr. Steve Childress in Robinson, Texas.
Get behind the wheel of the 2024 Jeep Grand Cherokee Overland at Allen Samuels in Waco. Choose between 2 or 3 rows and save $12,000 or take advantage of 0% financing. Looking for something smaller? Drive home a 2024 Jeep Compass Latitude 4x4 and save $9,760 or take 0% financing and get $3,000. Don't miss out during the Make This the Summer of Jeep event at Allen Samuels in Waco, where we deliver your next adventure. See dealer for details.
Come by. Let's be friends.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Petty Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pettycliniclowt.com.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Taylor McHargue, college football analyst, joins us. Craig Smoke and Paul Catalina, David Smoke. This is 365 Sports. Taylor, thank you. Great to have you on. And I know you've got yourself a busy football season coming up. We'll go over a couple of the quarterback takes as far as people being named QB1, get your opinion, but a few other college football notes too. I don't think there's any surprise about DeQuan Finn getting QB1 at Baylor. Your thoughts about what he can do for them?
Well, first of all, it's great to be back with you guys. We made it through the offseason, right?
Yes,
Week 0 finally here. Great to be back. I got a chance to I had not seen DeQuan Finn in person until the Manning camp this summer. And these guys are running around in shorts and T-shirts and throwing the football. But it did sort of jump out, his athleticism, just moving around, how he goes through, because they go through routes on air and they're moving around a couple different times when they throw. And everything that you see on tape, he backs up in person. And he's a big dude. He's not real tall, but is clearly a guy that's been in the weight room and has developed. And I know this isn't a huge surprise that he's been named the starter, but if I'm a Baylor fan, this is a huge step forward at the quarterback position, and this is somebody that can be a difference maker. I think Dave Aranda and his staff, this was a home run to get him out of the portal, and I'm a firm believer this is going to be somebody that late in games, both with throwing the football, but obviously with his legs as well. I think this is somebody that's a difference maker for Baylor this year.
How good do you think he can be in light of the fact that their offensive line is by far their largest unanswered question?
Well, I think the quality of athlete that he is, the beauty in college football is if you've got the best athlete on the field at the quarterback position, you're pretty much always in the game, by and large. I mean, within reason, but with the level of talent that Baylor should have this season, there are very few teams, maybe not a single team, that he's not going to be one of the best one or two athletes on the field every single week. And I think when you have that at the quarterback position, it also helps that it's in the Big 12. I think this would be different if you had I don't think DeQuan Finn would be a great fit for most of the SEC. But in the Big 12, with the style of play, typically smaller linebackers, a lot of odd fronts where you just have three down linemen, I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities for him to extend plays, make plays outside of the pocket, design quarterback run game as well, all the things that he did at Toledo. And again, I'll keep saying it, if I'm a Baylor fan, this is somebody that I'm very excited about as having your quarterback.
Been a few other starting quarterback announcements. I know we probably can't talk about them all, Taylor, but Miller Moss out at USC, Malik Murphy at Duke. I don't think that those are necessarily big surprises. If you want to touch on either one of those, or is there maybe perhaps been another one? Brendan Sorsby at Cincinnati. Has there been anything that you've noticed that stuck out as far as the QB1 announcements?
Well, I think some of what you already touched on, I think those are obviously some of the main ones. Will Howard at USC. I think the Boise State announcement this week, I know that's a group of 5 team, but that's a team that I think is odds-on favorite to get to the college football playoff this year. For anybody that hasn't followed this, Malachi Nelson, former top quarterback in the country, 5-star, transfers from USC. He gets beat out by Maddox Madsen, who was there a year before, and that was one of the biggest surprises to me because, look, in this era of transfer portal and NIL, usually if you've got a guy that transfers in, that means that they had some sort of NIL commitment and they're getting paid to be there. Usually that means that guy's probably winning the job. I think that's not a huge surprise. This was an example, and I'm not sure what Malachi Nelson's deal is with Boise in terms of NIL, But this surprised a lot of people that Maddox Madsen, who's the incumbent, that he retained that job.
What are your thoughts about SMU? Preston Stone was the favorite to be and remain the starter, but Kevin Jennings is a very talented young man who got a chance to play at the end of last year, had a great bowl game. The quarterback room that they have as they enter the ACC.
Yeah, I thought it was wise how Rhett Lashley and his staff handled that, right? Because you go back the last 2 seasons, we had Preston Stone in his first start 2 years ago at Tulsa, and he breaks his collarbone on the second possession of the game. Then last year gets hurt again. Jennings has to lead them through the end of the season and the American Conference Championship. And I think the way Rhett Lashley and his staff handled this, where they said, look, we're going to have this as a competition and we're going to delay naming a starter, whether this was the full intent or not, we're going to delay naming a starter until well into camp so that we don't give Kevin Jennings an opportunity to transfer. Because with the injuries that Preston Stone has had, it's not out of the realm of possibility. I mean, it's similar to Quinn Ewers, right? You have to expect that your backup will play at least some this season based on his injury history the last 2 seasons. So I think Preston Stone is the more talented quarterback. He's got more experience. But Kevin Jennings is also a guy that he's going to be a solid ACC quarterback. And I don't think it's a significant step down from Preston Stone, but not surprised to see Preston Stone get the nod as a starter.
Taylor, when you look at the group of 5 schools, Boise State, Memphis, Tulane, I'm leaving somebody out, Jacksonville State, who is your favorite right now to be a playoff team?
Yeah, I think it's Boise State. I think the combination of talent that they have coming back this year and the way that their schedule lays out, they've got Oregon early in the season that they'll almost certainly lose to. But outside of that, I think that if you go look at the odds for Vegas on them winning the Mountain West, they are heavy favorites in that conference. And I think they have a similar situation to Memphis where you've got a ton of returning production. Both Memphis plays at Florida State and Boise State plays at Oregon. Both of those games are going to be very important because let's assume Memphis wins the American Conference and let's assume that Boise State wins the Mountain West. The committee is going to look at, and it's going to come down to how did they perform against these top teams in September? Because if one gets blown out and the other one hangs, it stays within a score or 2, that will matter at the end of the year. But coming into the season right now, I think it's Boise State. Just again, go down the list and look at the amount of production. I believe it's 10 of 11 are back on defense for a team that won that conference last year. So I think Boise State's the favorite for that 12th spot in the expanded playoff.
Taylor, a lot of very interesting quarterbacks in the Big 12 this year, whether it be veterans like Shedeur or younger guys like Avery Johnson. Who are a couple of the guys that you like the most? I know Garrett Green's a guy that gets a lot of love. You got Alan Bowman coming back. You mentioned DeQuan Finn, but who do you think kind of, if you had to pick a couple of guys in the Big 12, Cam Rising would stand above the rest for you?
Cam Rising will get all the headlines for a number of reasons. I think he may be in terms of draft position, that may be your best quarterback out of the Big 12 this year. But I'll go with a selfish answer because I have these 2 teams in week 1, Kansas on Thursday night and then Oklahoma State on Saturday. Jayden Daniels, can he stay healthy for Kansas? I think Kansas is my dark horse playoff team because if you look at where their schedule lines up, they're already a ranked team. So it's not inconceivable to think that could be one of the top 1 or 2 teams in the Big 12 this year. And then Bowman at Oklahoma State is interesting because he's a guy that I think people give the benefit of the doubt because he's played for so long. He's in his 7th year of college football. But going back and watching some tape on him from last year, you've got some really high highs and you've got some really low lows. And I'm curious for Oklahoma State, can they find some consistency from a guy that has, again, he's been around a long time. If he could just be consistent, lean on Ollie Gordon, there's a reason Oklahoma State's ranked where they are and have the 2nd best odds out of the Big 12. But both of those teams, Kansas and Oklahoma State, quarterbacks are going to be incredibly important for those teams in their playoff hopes.
Taylor, when you're playing the quarterback position, consistency is something obviously every team coach needs. But how hard is it that if you start poorly, that you have an opportunity, that you have the ability, resiliency, and talent to at least get out of it, where some quarterbacks, if they start poorly, they can't get out of it, and that's why they don't play very often?
Well, I think it's incredibly difficult in this day and age, especially because the days of allowing a guy to have multiple games and even a full season to work through growing pains, we're really behind that. And we've moved to a model that you typically have two quarterbacks on your roster that they obviously go into camp and they duke it out, and that's your quarterback competition. But so often we see guys, even if they lose the battle in camp, or certainly if they lose it in spring ball, they leave, they transfer out.
Yep.
And I think there's a lot of looking over their shoulder in this day and age because it is a win now mentality. These ADs and these coaching staffs, they're moving on from head coaches after really short stints, sometimes 2 years, sometimes 1 year in certain instances. So it's part of the position, and that never goes away. I struggled my senior year, had some really bad turnovers in a out-of-conference game against Kansas, and was worried that was, I was going to be benched. It ended up being able to come back and have a good senior season, but it goes with the territory of trying to have a short memory, which every quarterback at any level has to try and develop that.
Taylor, I'm going to make a pitch to you. I've made to a couple different people and see if you think I'm crazy or not. UCF is going to be in the Big 12 title game.
I think you're crazy.
Oh, okay.
No, that's not. I got to go back and look at it. I forget where they stand in the coaches poll and where Vegas has them, but I want to say they were in the top third. My issue with UCF and my memory from last year and what they've done in the portal, I don't know that they have what it's going to take in the trenches and in the interior to compete with the top couple, 2 or 3 teams in the league. I think they're still they're going to fall short of even your Arizonas, but certainly your Oklahoma State and your Utahs. I think interior offensive and defensive line, I'm not sure that they have the depth for what it's going to take. I think that's going to be one of your top third or certainly top quarter of the Big 12 this year. But are they going to get to the conference championship game? I think they're probably at least a year away from that.
We've got schools like Oregon and Washington now in the Big 10, schools like Utah and Arizona now in the Big 12, schools like SMU and Stanford now in the ACC, and we've got an expanded 12-team playoff. Just what's your excitement level entering this new terrain of college football where so much is different and yet interesting and I guess for most people exciting?
Yeah, there's a lot of changes this season. I have a ton of optimism for this college football season. There's some other things that go, beyond the expanded playoff and the conferences, but I'm really excited to watch how the new quarterback comms, the NFL style now, where the coaches are talking directly into the quarterback's ears now in their helmet, and same for usually a middle linebacker on the other side. I think that's a tweak to the game that is better for the sport. I'm excited for some of these matchups that we haven't had before. I just saw the announcement. Ohio State going to Oregon for what we're calling a conference game. I get that that's insane that that's a Big 10 game, but as a fan of the sport, that's going to be great. And like we talked about this a lot last year with you guys, and I'll keep saying it. I am convinced that the expanded playoff is going to bring more meaningful football in the month of November. I don't think it waters down the regular season. I think these games in the month of November and rivalry week, the Ohio States versus Michigans, the Auburn versus Alabamas, those are still going to have a lot of impact on conference standings and who gets buys. But you're going to have more teams in the month of November that have legitimate chances at getting to the college football playoff. And I think that's a good thing for the sport. More postseason football that's meaningful is a good thing.
Taylor, what would an in-helmet device have meant to you when you were playing the game?
I think the biggest impact is for young quarterbacks because they cut it off at 15 seconds. So when I started as a freshman. When I was a freshman, it would have been really beneficial if I got to the line at 30 seconds left on the play clock and we were going hurry up and we're going through cadence and my offensive coordinator says, "Hey, dummy, you need to flip the protection because you're about to get hit in the back of the head." Because when I was a freshman, I didn't get that right very often. I think things like that are going to happen all the time, and you're also going to get on the defensive side the same thing. You're going to get checks at the last second. It's going to be a chess match. Really fascinating to watch how this goes, but especially for young quarterbacks, there's such a benefit to being able to coach them up until 15 seconds on where do your eyes go in this progression? Do they need to flip protection? Do you need to flip run game to the other side? All of those things are in play. And we talked with Trent Dilfer at American Conference Media Days, head coach at UAB, And he talked about this, and he said, look, I think it's a net positive and another benefit to the offensive side of the ball. But there are some major benefits for the defense as well in terms of being able to make checks as long as teams aren't going super fast with their tempo. But the last thing on it, even if you are going real fast with your tempo, then you're sort of negating the benefit of the in-ear communication. So I think it benefits young quarterbacks the most.
I'll be in touch about trying to set up something weekly to fit your schedule, the broadcast that you have. Thanks for your time. We appreciate it. You're right. College football, the offseason's over. The games are here. Have a great rest of the week.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Taylor McHargue with us, CBS, ESPN, college broadcaster, former Rice starting quarterback. Delaware State plays at Hawaii Saturday night. They missed today's 10.5-hour flight to Honolulu after a bus snafu to JFK. College football is so back. It's one of the notes from Unnecessary Roughness on Twitter. So imagine that, 10.5 hours. The bus is running late or whatever happened. That's not just a flight that they have 6 or 8 times a day, not even out of JFK. And all the way across the big pond.
Yeah, that sucks, especially since you're
Across the
probably
country
really
first,
probably excited about that whole thing if you're Delaware State. Not just the game, but the experience. But, man, that's a bummer. It's a bummer for Hawaii, who's sitting there going, well, what do we do?
Well, they're going to play the game.
Yeah, but I mean, like, but you sit there and wonder, like, okay, what if?
Well,
what
I
if
mean,
it doesn't?
they'll figure it out.
Yeah.
They'll play the game, but that's a flight all the way across the country from California, whatever, wherever they might end up flying into, and then to Hawaii. That's a big trip.
I mean, yeah, but you signed up to go to Hawaii, so I mean, you've signed up for the long trip. You just don't get to leave when you wanted to. I don't think that interrupts anything that we actually care about as far as the game itself goes. But I mean, nobody loves travel issues, that's for sure. So I don't. I think we're at that point now where everything means college football is back. It's like there's forks and spoons on the table at the restaurant. College football's never been more back. Everything, we are so locked in on it being back, and like every little thing is a sign that it's back. I don't know about a travel issue because I don't feel like that was really commonplace really ever necessarily, but I do think it's one of those quirky things that happens and you just deal with. So that's the first thing that we've heard that's gotten off the rails this season, I guess, technically, and it will not be the last.
It's not a trip where they could have just taken a 3-hour bus ride to where they were playing.
No.
But one that's going to Hawaii. They'll make it there. They'll play the game. But that's one of those ways. Oh, wait, what a great way to start a trip. Paul, it's 5 hours from here, Texas,
It's 8.
right? 8 hours?
8 hours.
Okay, all right.
8 hours on the way there, 7 on the way back.
Okay.
Most of the flights have
straight. Okay.
Yeah. American has one from Dallas.
When we come back, Tony Syracusa, and some of you keep thinking it's the former NFL star who was also a personality and a former TV broadcaster. Tony is from The Last Word on College Football. He'll join us. This is 365 Sports. Baylor alumni. Fan engagement, Doug Furch. We've known Doug for a long, long time, and what a job he does for them. Baylor alumni can help you set up a watch party wherever you might live around the country. And with our audience, coast to coast, with some of the large, huge markets that we enter, if you're going to have a watch party, let's say in Salt Lake City or Orlando to watch a Baylor football game, you can get in touch with Baylor alumni, and they will help you get that together to get the word out to all the other alums living near where you might be, whether it's in Chicago or L.A. or even in Dallas, Fort Worth, Houston, Austin, or San Antonio. The Baylor football team opens up August 31st with Tarleton. Meet the Team is coming up this weekend. They will be a part of that. They help promote Baylor athletics, and they also help promote you when you want to watch them if you can't be where they are. Baylor Athletics and Baylor Alumni Fan Engagement, where they can help you be a part of what you want to be with the alums around the country.
It's time to score big savings at the Kickoff to Savings event on GMC trucks at Richard Carr GMC. Take the winning drive with the Texas Truck MVP. GMC Sierra is the best truck on the road. Save $9,000 on 2024 GMC Sierra SLT models in stock with approved trade-in. Plus, qualified buyers get 1.9% financing and no payments for 90 days. See dealer for details. Save big and score your deal at the Kickoff to Savings event at Richard Carr GMC.
Richard Carr, they have the truck for you. Edward Jones financial advisors Josh Satterfield and John Maddox understand these are difficult and changing times we live in, but they know how important your financial investments are to you. So is your financial advisor staying in touch with you and helping you navigate today's financial climate? When you invest with Edward Jones financial advisors Josh Satterfield, John Maddox, and Sean Carter, they will provide their time and experience to help you reach your goals. And like coaching athletes, investing money is about time, patience, and encouragement. Josh Satterfield and Sean Carter on Wycon Road off Bagby, and John Maddox on Sapphire Boulevard in Hewitt. Proud sponsors of Midway Panthers football. Edward Jones, making sense of investing. Membership SIPC.
El Conquistador Restaurants are a very proud sponsor of the Midway Panthers, have been owned and operated by the Gonzalez family since 1969. El Conquistador is recognized annually as a local favorite with their fast and friendly service. Dine in or order takeout and enjoy your favorite Tex-Mex items as well as several traditional menu items. Catering is also available with 3 locations to serve you: Waco, Belmead, and Hillsboro. The Gonzalez family thanks you in Waco and the surrounding area for your continued support of 55 years in business. Go Panthers!
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow @GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McClain County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. This segment is brought to you by Michelob Ultra. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. Containing only 95 calories and 2.6 carbs.
Tony Syracusa at Tony Bruin on Twitter, managing editor, Last Word on College Football, a member of the Football Writers Association of America, has a vote, the Outland Trophy, and the Gursky Blitnikoff, and so much more. And he joins us, a great get for us, Tony Syracusa on 365 Sports with Craig and Paul and David Smoke. Tony, thank you very much for being a part of the show. What do you think about the trends of what Alabama just paid a young man to get $800,000 or more a year? Happy for him, but the trend of the GMs in college football.
Hey guys, I'm happy to be on the show tonight. Listen, I think this is where we're going to be going, and probably not at $800,000 for every school, but I think that this is the trend that we're going to see as a result of the settlement from the House versus NCAA lawsuit. One of the biggest things, and the settlement's complicated and it won't be finalized until next year, but one of the things it does is it brings NIL inside, because we're going to get revenue sharing from the schools to the athletes. We're going to be able to manage the NIL prospects from within. It's not a perfect system. None of this ever is. There will be tons of unfortunate, unintended consequences, but it's a step. But I think one of the things that it does ultimately, I've talked to several administrators out here on the East Coast for ACC schools, and what I'm getting is this is going to cut out the middleman in a lot of ways. There is going to be probably 10 to 15% of the schools that keep their relationships with the collectives, but use that money for the other sports, the non-football sports, maybe even the non-basketball sports. And the schools will still handle the licensing, the NIL, the contracts for the football. You're going to see the other 85 to 90% of the schools take everything inside. And so you're going to need GMs like this. Look, if you're a young person just fresh out of school and you want to get into college athletics, I'm telling you, there are going to be hundreds and hundreds of job openings for accounting and contract analysis and all these kinds of things as schools start to build up their infrastructure to do this.
Tony, when people think of a general manager, they think mostly of personnel. How much will that role vary school to school?
I think it's going to vary quite a bit. Look, the bigger schools are going to have they're going to be able to afford the bigger infrastructures to do this. And there will be many more layers within the process. You're going to have smaller schools, even at the FBS level, that can hire 3-4 people. And, they'll work with personnel, but it's going to be more of an oversight job. Is everyone getting paid the money they're supposed to get paid on the revenue sharing? Do we have everybody's NIL contracts? How is all of this working? So it is going to vary dramatically, mostly by size of school.
What have you found to be most interesting in terms of the way athletic departments have changed over the last couple of years with all of the new rules? And perhaps it's the emergence of a general manager type role. But what's sort of caught your fancy in terms of everybody just adjusting to this new world of college sports?
Well, I think the term you use, adjusting, really is the key there, because in a lot of ways we're all making it up as we go along. And NIL was never, and I'm not taking collectives to task, but what I'm saying is the Ed O'Bannon lawsuit with regards to NIL was supposed to be about that direct relationship between sponsors using your name, image, and likeness and you getting paid for it. The collectives just came out of it very randomly. And so people adjusted as they could. They did what they could. You've got some schools with huge collectives. You've got others where the entire athletic department is operating off $3 million for every athlete on campus. And so I think that it is a lot of just kind of learning to adjust on the fly. I think that, there are so many unintended consequences with the lawsuits and then the resolutions, and, the NCAA tries to step in, which of course is, means instant litigation in an antitrust court within 72 hours of anything the NCAA tries to do. So it really is just a constantly fluid situation.
So with the general manager and what Morgan's going to get, $825,000. There's others that are getting $300,000 or $400,000. How does this work? The head coaches are getting $5, $6, $8, $10, $11 million. It's their program. Bill Parcells, Tony, once said, if I'm going to cook the meal, I want to buy the groceries. How much influence and what will be the influence of these general managers?
I think it's really going to be more on the business end than the recruiting, the scouting, anything like that. We look at a traditional GM in the NFL or any other pro sports, and I don't really see that as being the model. I really think this is going to be about managing the business end of things. Right now, you see the schools are theoretically not supposed to have direct ties to the collective. In other words, they're not supposed to be having meetings talking about how much money can you get for me for this kid or that player or whatever the case may be. Does it happen? Of course it does. Rules get broken every day. But theoretically, they're not supposed to. This changes that. This says we're going to bring the business model inside. And so I really think that that's going to have more to do with that general manager role than it will with recruiting or scouting or who the starting quarterback is.
Tony Syracusa with us. Last word on college football on 365 Sports.
Tony, I know that you cover the ACC quite a bit, and this is not their favorite offseason, I'm sure, that they've ever had. If they listed it, it would not be the time they went to Disney World for sure.
Sure.
what do you see as the reasonable path forward for that league should it not fall apart with departures?
Sure. Let me add in that for those same reasons, it wasn't my favorite offseason either, because I spent a lot of time in what was supposed to be my downtime. A lot of it was spent in courtrooms and reading legal briefs, because we covered every hearing from every one of the lawsuits in Tallahassee, in Pickens County, South Carolina, and in Charlotte, North Carolina. We were covering every one of them directly. Look, we don't know what's going to happen with these suits. All of them are at the appellate level right now, different parts of the appellate level, and they're all at that level just based on the first motions to dismiss. I mean, the very early preliminary stuff is already being appealed. So we're 2 years away from even thinking about a trial in any of these cases. Florida State, when they got denied their motion to dismiss in Charlotte, it's a different kind of court in Charlotte. It's called a complex contract court. And so basically what it means is if you want to appeal because it came from that court, you can skip the entire appellate process and go straight to the state Supreme Court, which is what Florida State has done. But that won't get heard until next spring. And they've already vowed if they lose there, they intend to go to the Supreme Court of the United States, based with their claims that you can't sue a state entity. So we're a long way away. Jim Phillips said at ACC Media Days, he dug his heels in more than I've ever seen him on any topic. He said, we are not going to look for a settlement. We are not going to back down from these. He was pretty pissed off, thinking that Florida State and Clemson had been very disruptive to the natural flow of a conference. So I think that we're going to wait until there is a victory at some level, at some appellate level from someone. That will be the first domino that starts other things in process. Otherwise, it's all in a holding pattern.
When would the first domino potentially drop? Like, is there anything that's even in a time frame that's coming up that would be like, hey, look here in October in Raleigh, and that could be the first thing, or is it more wide open and kind of a blank canvas in that?
Couple things. One, what we have discovered through the paperwork process now having to be revealed in discovery is that while the schools were compelled to sign that extension on the grant of rights, which moved everything from 2027 through 2036, ESPN was not compelled to do the same. And that's what the schools were led to believe. ESPN has an out clause that gets them out of all of this in 2027.
Right.
But they have to file the paperwork for that by, I want to say, end of February next year. Well, we won't be through any of these legal procedures by then. So there's kind of really an open-ended question with regards to ESPN. That would be the first domino to fall. If they lock in for another few years, the ACC has a little bit of a safety blanket with that. If they don't, or if they ask for a postponement or delay on their notification, then the ACC's got reason to sweat.
So of the teams, and there are the polls, the AP coaches poll, and everyone has their rankings or whatever. Tony, who do you see that might be a little overmodulated, that has been really good, but there might be a tad overmodulated this year, and maybe a team or two that are being slept on?
In terms of teams that are overmodulated, I think, and this is going to sound really strange, I don't know what to think of Alabama in the SEC this year. Look, are they a top 10 team? Yeah, probably, because it's Alabama. They've always got the talent. But the SEC has got, because to me right now, Georgia is number one until proven otherwise. I like Texas this year. I really do. I think Sarkisian has put together a tremendous roster, and I like Texas's ability to compete. It's conceivable that you're looking at Alabama as a third, fourth place team, which I know that doesn't sit well with the Tide fans because, they're used to always fighting to be at the top. But I think this is a much more competitive SEC this year. It's not one or two teams at the top and then everybody else. I like Oregon. I think Oregon's going to be able to compete in the Big Ten with Ohio State. They actually play each other. I don't have the schedule in front of me, but I want to say it's in September. So I like Oregon a lot this year too. A couple of teams I got real question marks on are actually out here in the ACC. I voted in the preseason poll, put Florida State number 1. I put Clemson number 2, but I felt like putting a big question mark next to them. The defense will be good. Linebacking group is as good as they come in the country. I have no idea what to think of Cade Klubnik yet. 3 years in, I look at the guy and I'm like, I don't know. He's got some decent games. He's got some head scratchers. I don't know. I know Miami is getting a lot of preseason love. They've got, they've got 3 receivers on the preseason Blitnikoff list. They've got Cam Ward, their quarterback from Washington State, on every list imaginable. But I got to tell you, having spent the rest of my life on the West Coast and covering the Pac-12, I got a lot of questions about Mario Cristobal. You know, you made the reference earlier to doing the shopping and doing the cooking. I got to tell you, man, Mario Cristobal to me, he's Instacart. I'll let him do the shopping for me, but I don't want him in my kitchen. I don't want him cooking my dinner, man. He's Instacart. Until he proves he can do better, he's got the college football world is telling him, man, you got all the talent in the world right now. You better win. You better really win and compete for the conference championship. He's making the same mistakes, coaching mistakes, now that he made at Oregon years ago. So I'm not convinced. I put him third, but not really convinced about it.
Tony, if Clemson has a year like they did last year, where and I don't think the schedule lines up for them this year where they would be out of the ACC race by October 10th like they were last year, but should they be out of the ACC race before November again or early in November, do you think that inspires change in Dabo Swinney?
You would like to think so. But I got to tell you, having talked to Dabo late last month at ACC Media Days, I feel like he's dug his heels in even more. I really do. He is completely convinced that his way is what is best for Clemson. Not that his way is the right way for college football, but it's what is best for his program and for Clemson. And with Dabo Swinney's resume at Clemson, there is no such thing right now as him being on a hot seat. There just isn't. Fan discontentment or whatever, when you have the championships, the conference championships, the national championships that he has, he knows that he's got a lot of wiggle room, frankly, to work with, and he's going to use it because he is convinced he is right.
You know, you on your Twitter handle, first of all, Tony, great segment. I've kind of watched you from afar, and I just never have really contacted you, and glad we did. You say in your heading, routinely swerves out of lane. I just love that. I think I do that 8 to 10 times a day, just sitting at my desk at my office. But what does that mean for you?
Absolutely. You know what? I get told a lot. When I was out on the West Coast and I was covering UCLA for 5 years, I had the last year of the Jim Mora era, and then 4 years of Chip Kelly. But if I were to opine on things outside the Pac-12, I'd be getting told, you're a West Coast writer. You don't know the SEC. You don't know what it's like. Now that I'm out here on the ACC, I still get told, yeah, but you're new to the ACC. You've only been out here, this will be my third season covering the ACC once we move to Charlotte. And so I'm kind of like, look, man, I'm going to swerve all over the place. And I'm probably going to hit some other vehicles along the way, but I'm not staying in a lane. I just don't. I'm outspoken about a lot of things. I mean, I saw the Oklahoma State helmets today with the QR code on the back, and I was like, that is one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. Because how am I supposed to get my phone sitting in row 60 affixed to the QR code on the back of that helmet? I mean, what am I supposed to do? Rush the field afterwards and grab a helmet so I can donate $20 to some kid? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. So, look, I don't hold back in my opinions, and I kick a lot of flack for it, but that's all right.
Well,
I'm pretty thick-skinned.
I struggle with that in the grocery store with the QR code that's sitting there in front of me.
I do too. I actually at one point tweeted, "What happens if you accidentally hit it twice? Does the menu for the local Hooters come up on your phone after that?"
Oh man, we will absolutely be back in touch with you, Tony. Great stuff, and good luck with what you're doing. Football Writers Association, all the various voting that you do. We do a lot of that too. We appreciate your time and have a great first week of the season.
All right, thanks guys. Be well.
Tony Syracusa, again, the managing editor, Last Word on College Football. I love it. Great segment.
Yeah,
Been
really
watching
good.
him a long time, and I don't know why. I've reached out to him at some point last week for us to get him on. Even a couple of people in the chat were like, hey, tell us a little bit more about him, which we did when we introduced him, but you came in during the middle of his interview. It's a great point about that QR code. I didn't even think about that as a fan in the stands.
I think mostly it's going to be for people to, if they capture it on the like a screen.
Yeah, because you can't, if you're 10 rows up,
No,
I mean, if a guy's on the sideline,
No.
then you can maybe zoom in enough, but that's mostly going to be on TV or, yeah, like you said, on the Jumbotron that pops up. So, like I said earlier, it's a cool idea, but I do feel like it's fair to say, like, at what point do you stop asking me for money? You know, like, now I'm watching the game and now the helmet's like, please click me and pay money. Like, you know, if everybody ends up doing it, which I'm sure they will, that's the smart play. So kudos to Oklahoma State, kudos to Colorado and UCF and everybody else who's done the QR code thing. But yeah, I just, you know, where could you like eventually just go enjoy something and not be asked to spend your money on it to continue enjoying it? You know what I'm saying? That's the part that I'm just like, that needs to be said.
Well, I can tell you, you can't go to church and do that.
Well, no, you're absolutely right.
I mean,
Yeah. It's not just a college football critique by any means, no.
All right, good stuff. Appreciate that, and a lot of good opinions from Tony. We appreciate his time. Coming up is Stephen Weissman from the Raleigh News and Observer, covers a lot of North Carolina and also as ACC, and his thoughts about Malik Murphy. Does a lot of work, especially with Duke basketball, but covers football too, and his thoughts about the ACC. A little bit later on in the show today, we'll have Mickey Spagnola and John McClain. Craig's off the radar, Paul's top five, and this is 365 Sports. Dunge Humidor and Coffee Beans. I went by there on Saturday after playing a round of golf to go see Cheyenne and Josh. And they had a box of cigars for me, filled with what is a part of that wall that is in their humidor, the 48-foot walk-in humidor off to the right, which are all Texas brand cigars. McAuliffe Cigars out of Dallas. Warfighter out of Church, which is right outside of, in fact, we used to live near Randolph Air Force Base in San Antonio. Combat veteran, owned and operated company. Roma Craft Cigars out of Austin, boutique company with full, bold flavor cigars. Rojas Cigars from Richardson in Dallas. Delicious cigars named after your favorite Mexican food. Come smoke a whole enchilada or breakfast taco. All of these cigars are available, as Joshua and Cheyenne have highlighted them. When you walk in their door, you'll see all of the accessories, including the fresh coffee beans. And then when you walk inside the humidor to the right, 48-foot walk-in humidor, you will see all of these fantastic cigars. And the ones, Macanudo and Ashton and Rocky Patel and Artur Fuente. But then there's the Texas brand cigars off to the wall, which I think is very, very cool. Don Humidor and Coffee Beans in the Town West Shopping Center in between Richland Drive and Valley Mills in Waco.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
Pioneer Steel and Pipe opened their doors in 1943, and they have never wavered with their focus on great product and customer service, relationships with a handshake, making sure you, the customer, is satisfied. Their new facility is now twice the size, allowing new inventory, higher quantities, and in a much more organized fashion. In addition to the long lengths in tubing, angles, channels, rods, and flat, Pioneer Steel and Pipe now offers several shorter, more convenient lengths of material already cut. Their 2,500 square foot showroom has over 1,000 new products in stock, new welding supplies, hardware, quickcrete, and do-it-yourself components for any project, whether you are a professional contractor or weekend warrior. The new facility is designed to make your loading experience faster and more efficient with easy drive lanes around the building and much more room to get your trailer loaded. Our location may have changed, but our values haven't, and our relationship with customers goes much farther than just business. Pioneer Steel and Pipe on Loop 340 and Highway 6 and just east of I-35 in Waco.
Some say a dog is a man's best friend. But I tell you what, boys, you better think again. 'Cause there ain't nothing better than some cows, pigs, and turkeys too. I love to cover them in sauce down at Rudy's Barbecue.
Bring all your friends to Rudy's for some tasty oak smoke barbecue.
Next in line.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
Stephen Weissman for the News Observer, North Carolina. The Duke story with Malik Murphy being named the starter, which is something I think everyone expected, but you never know. And so he gives us insight on that and joins us on 365 Sports. Stephen, thank you very much for your time. So was there any doubt that Malik Murphy would end up being the starter? And what was the competition there at quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, they had Grayson Loftus in their battling with him, who he started the last 5 games of last year after Riley Leonard got hurt. He won the bowl game over Troy. He acquitted himself pretty well, actually. And so he is a guy with experience, with actually, more experience than Malik Murphy, right, who started those 2 games for Texas. So that made it, not a slam dunk by any stretch. But, I think, Murphy was the leader coming in. And, I've told other people, they brought him in here for a reason, right? So it's kind of like, this is where college athletics is now. You have a big free agent acquisition in the off season. You're probably going to play him. So I think that was the case. But he had to go out there and show it on the field. He had to prove it to Manny Diaz and all that after the spring, and then after here in fall camp, that he has a big arm and he's going to throw it to the right people, and that's what he did.
How has Manny Diaz tried to keep the momentum that Duke built under Mike Elko? Because Duke is a program, and you know this, that things get going well in football, and then somebody takes their coach. And Manny Diaz, it feels to me like a good fit in that he's maybe not gotten his fair shake as a head coach where he's been, and this is an opportunity for him to try to do that. But it's still difficult when you're a program that has 2-3 good years, and then somebody yanks your coach away.
Yeah, it's hard to maintain even when David Cutcliffe was here, right? He had it going pretty good there for a while and went to an ACC championship game, and then it kind of fell off at the end. So it can be a tough place to maintain winning year after year with some of the obstacles you have to overcome. But yeah, I think the biggest thing Manny Diaz did was retain David Feely as his strength coach. That's the guy that Elko brought in to start his tenure here, his short tenure of 2 years. And it made such a big difference in the program with the work they did in the weight room and the confidence everybody had that Diaz, was able to retain David. They worked together at Miami when Manny was down there, so that helped. And then that created this great continuity where even though you had a complete change of the coaching staff, you didn't have a change in that one key position. And so everybody bought into the offseason. They kept doing the same work they had done previously. And so that made it easier. So that was a really good move by Manny. And then, of course, getting Malik Murphy in last December was another signal that, hey, Manny's here to win just like Mike Elko did. And so they don't expect there to be a drop-off.
What, Stephen, are the big differences you think that people will notice just stylistically with Duke this year compared to the last couple?
I think on offense, with the new offensive coordinator, Jonathan Brewer, who came in from SMU, he's already said they're going to play faster. They're going to have a little faster tempo. And it's not that, under Kevin Johns, when Elko was here, they were slow by any stretch, but even the players have said, some of the returning players, that they have to be in a little better shape. They have to move a little faster because there's going to be a little less time in between plays. So I think that might be the first thing people will notice is the pace on offense. And I think defense, they're gonna be aggressive. They're gonna dial things up like Elko did, and try to get after the quarterback like they did and everything. So they're gonna have a strong secondary. I know that they have other guys returning from last year. There's other questions there on defense, but they're gonna have a strong secondary. But I think that's what you're gonna notice.
Are you gonna be able to make that trip to go watch the game in Chicago, Northwestern, in that stadium that they have right there on the lake as they build another one?
That's going to be interesting, isn't it? We'll see. Yeah, it's on a Friday night, so it doesn't start till 9:00 Eastern. So that's going to be a late night game for people reading my story on the East Coast. But yeah, that'll be a neat trip, and we'll see what happens with that. I'm really curious to see how that's going to play out up there. That's something we don't see in college athletics, right? A temporary stadium, but it's supposed to be right on the lakefront, so hopefully it'll be warm. I'm afraid it's going to be cold in Chicago on the lakefront.
Thank God in September, though. At least it's not October, November.
Certainly don't want to do it in November, that's for sure.
Yeah. Do you think that they have looking at the schedule, they host Florida State. They've got to go to Miami and NC State. But outside of that, is this pretty manageable for them to keep that momentum?
I think it is, and you're right to hone in on that middle part of the season. That's going to be the tough stretch. That's going to decide whether this can be a 5, 6, 7 win team or more. The way they play there, but they sure get a chance to start off in a strong fashion. But they open with Elon, the FCS opponent, at home, and then you talk about that trip to Northwestern, and then they have UConn and Middle Tennessee. So this isn't like last year when they had Notre Dame as a non-conference game and things like that. They've played Alabama here in the past in non-conference, and they're not doing that this year. So you've got a real opportunity to win your first 4 games, and then you have a home game with your rival North Carolina, who you haven't beaten in 6 years now. So that's something. But and then you have Georgia Tech on the road. Then you get a bye, right? And so you got 6 games. Half your season's done. Then you get a bye, an open week, and then you have the 4 tough games you talked about, and then there's another bye after those 4. So they're going to know after the first month here, what direction the season's going. If they can come out of those first 6, with 4 or 5 wins, which is possible, then you can really try to build on something special. But if you stumble out of the gate and you're 3-3, you're looking. It's going to be tough sledding to get to a bowl game because that middle stretch is pretty brutal.
Stephen, the ACC's obviously been in the news quite a bit, welcoming in 3 new schools and SMU, Cal, and Stanford here in the next couple of weeks, but also a lot of questions about the future beyond that. How, for the most part, have Duke fans or yourself in particular just sort of absorbed and reacted to all of the noise surrounding the conference over the past year?
Yeah, it's certainly something to be paying attention to. I remember having conversations with Mike Elko after practice a couple days last fall about some of this stuff. Right? We talked about what's going to happen with the ACC and everything, and it was uncertain then, and it's uncertain now. But nothing's going to happen with Clemson or Florida State. I think it's not going to happen this year, and probably not going to happen next year. It's going to be some time as this thing unfolds. I don't think it's going to happen. It's not a matter of months or weeks. We're talking years here, so because of the contracts, and it's got to wind through the courts. The courts don't do anything fast, so there's no need to get in a hurry about that. But so the ACC added 3 teams to prepare itself, protect itself against departures, frankly. And so not everybody agrees with who they brought in. I don't think it's good to have the ACC in California, but that's the world we live in now. So I guess that's the way it's going to have to be. But it's uncertain for sure. But they're going to press forward with what they have now. I think they have a strong conference now, and we'll see what happens with the 2 that want to leave. But it's going to be a while for this to unfold.
Just be careful, Stephen, when you write a reminiscing type story about the greatest moments in ACC football. Though, don't forget Stanford Cal and the famous finish is now a part of the ACC. That's what's going to be hard for me to kind of wrap my arms around. Or let me ask you this: Duke, we know basketball, and of course we have right here in our backyard what Baylor does in basketball. But when football's good, it's on the radar. What is it like there, Duke football, in the comparisons to the 100% interest of Duke basketball like Kansas is going through right now with a nice little resurgence in football?
Right. And Duke played at Kansas a few years ago when Kansas was just there in the top 25. I was at that game. And it was kind of a neat environment. Like, okay, they care about football here too now, and that's good. And that's the way, it is with Duke football. I mean, last year when they opened the season on Monday night on Labor Day night and they beat Clemson 28-7, and it was a sold-out stadium, and they stormed the field, that was, a different feeling for Duke football, and it was a really good feeling for the campus. And so you started to get the feeling, Elko really did a good job engaging the students here and getting them in, giving away jerseys to them to come to games and incentivizing that way, and moving the seats like kind of in the corner, like right by the visiting side, so they could kind of harass the visitors like the Cameron Crazies do. And so that's helped a lot. I mean, football's never going to be basketball here. Let's face it, that's too high of a hill to climb. But you just want to have some of the enthusiasm, and so they're making changes to the stadium. They've upgraded the stadium in the last 10 years, and really tried. They know football has to be relevant for the future of college athletics at Duke. So they're doing their best with it, and I think they're making progress. There's a long way to go because they don't sell 40,000 seats for every game by any stretch, but they're making progress.
Thank you, Stephen. Good stuff. We appreciate your time. Thank you for the update. The Malik Murphy starting quarterback at Duke, among other things, with a new coach and Manny Diaz. Elko back at Texas A&M. Stephen Weissman from the Raleigh News and also Observer. Around the corner, Craig Smoke and Off the Radar. And Craig, I've got a nugget for you on Baylor football jersey numbers. Do you have that?
Yeah, I just saw that come down.
Okay, I just wanted to give you that little heads up. We'll do that. Off the Radar, this is 365 Sports. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it. The Margarita Magnifico, a limited time, is $10.99 for a large pizza. And they have video of it as they're making it, and it's pretty cool. The sauce, even the pretty colors. And with with tomatoes, margarita sauce, and much more. It's $10.99. Go online, marcos.com for more information. MAG is the code word. Also, Pozzoli's available for just $5.99 a piece. Mega meal deal. One large topping pizza, cheesy bread, and Cinesquares available for just $19.99. And the Fiery Flavors menu. Try 7 new items featuring a spicy cheese blend available too. You could order that online. 5 locations around Waco, the fastest growing pizza brand in America. Bob Mock is the one that owns those locations. Hewitt, Woodway, China Spring, Bellmead, and Robinson. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Colgin Ford. It's that time of year, it's football season. Bird Colgin Ford is a proud supporter of the best high school football right here in Central Texas. BK Ford is proud to sell the #1 selling truck in Texas, the F-Series truck, 47 years in a row. Come see the largest showroom in Texas and experience better at Bird Colgin Ford.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine now has 2 locations to serve you. The original on Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street and the brand new spot in downtown Waco at 600 Franklin Avenue. If you're looking for the best in craft beers or local Texas bourbons, then the original is the place to be. And for the latest trends and online phenomenons, head downtown to the Franklin location. Either way, you're going to get the same great variety, customer service, and speedy experience. Check out both locations on their Facebook and Instagram pages. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street, and now downtown on Franklin Avenue.
This is Craig Smokes Off the Radar, presented by Alliance Bank. They take pride in making banking easy. AllianceBankTexas.com.
Welcome into Off the Radar here on 365 Sports. Take a look at various headlines and stories, and hopefully this segment, actually not hopefully, I know it will be much better moving forward when there's actually a lot of news flowing. But there's just kind of little leaks here and there. I mean, we cover 45 minutes of the college football headlines at the start of the show. There's not much that we have not touched on. Even when the NFL, like the preseason going on, it's just kind of little things here and there. So I think this might be the least newsworthy, knock on wood, off the radar that we have for quite some time, just because we're going to have so many.
I think you do a pretty good job mixing stuff in, but yeah, I get it.
There's definitely times the last month where we haven't had this, so it's good to have it back. But yeah, there's been a couple of occasions where it's like, what is going on outside of college football news? So we will actually start off with some college football news here. As you mentioned out of the break, Baylor football announcing their single-digit jersey numbers for 2024. And this is something that Matt Rule started. It was something that he got, I believe it was from Al Golden at Temple, I think is where this all started, if I remember the story correctly. It's been a few years, but he got this idea while at Temple and brought it over to Baylor when he took the job, and it became a tradition, and then Dave Aranda took over, and I feel like because it was the COVID year, he just kind of was like, yeah, sure, we'll do it, and I don't know how much thought there really was as far as the meaning behind it. And then they've kind of tweaked it a little bit. It was kind of like a competition almost, the way that Matt Rule did it.
Matt Rule, it was about leadership, about care factor, and all. It was, and also, yeah, you had to be pretty good, but it was like an honor to be given a single digit.
Yeah, and there was like, I see Nebraska's Twitter page. I mean, they're still doing kind of games and stuff like that. Like if I make this putt, then everybody runs or doesn't run. So I'm noticing a lot of similarities there. But yeah, this was something that he had originally established. Dave Aranda's carried it over and thought we were kind of doing away with it at this point, but no, we're not. So would you guys like to know the single digits for this year?
I would.
All right, number 0 will be defensive lineman Jackie Marshall, who is coming back from injury and is expected to play a rather large role, and he will need to up front for them to, I think, meet their goals, but he is number 0. Number 1 is the transfer tight end from Ole Miss, Michael Trigg. Number 2 is linebacker Matt Jones, who's heading into his 6th season and has been a single digit already. Number 3, Devin Bobby, as the young defensive back, the upperclassman defensive back, maintains the number 3 jersey that he wore last year. Number 4 remains as is. It will still be wide receiver Monterey Baldwin. So 2, 3, and 4 are unchanged. Number Actually, you know what? I take that back.
Monterey was 80, wasn't
yeah,
it?
no, I take that back. I was looking at the new list. That's why I was repeating it like that. So yeah, Matt Jones is back in his jersey, but the rest of them, I was looking at the wrong page there. So my apologies on that. So Devin Bobby, number 3. Monterey Baldwin is now number 4. And that's right. They didn't have many single digits last year.
They had 3.
To speak of. So some of these guys are just filling empty jersey slots. Number 5 will be edge rusher Garmin Randolph, outside linebacker type as well. Number 6 will be wide receiver Ashton Hawkins, the newcomer from Texas State. Number 7, quarterback DeQuan Finn, newcomer from Toledo. Number 8, Caden Jenkins, star safety. And number 9, defensive lineman Trevin Maye. So there you go, a mixture of really interesting guys. I mean, from the transfer portal to some of the younger players like a Caden Jenkins to some of the upperclassmen like a Matt Jones. So it's a potpourri of names there for the single-digit jerseys.
Yeah, I think Jenkins a corner, isn't he?
What did I say? Safety?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, that's okay. I mean, we really haven't seen them out there, so we're not really sure about that. But
no, he's a corner. I just was thinking of somebody else.
Yeah, last year Jones, Jackson, Bryson, and T.J. Franklin wore the single digits.
Isn't his brother a safety?
Yeah,
I believe so. Yeah, the transfer. Yeah, he is. It's weird seeing defensive. This is not fair to offensive linemen. This is very much seclusion for them. They're not allowed to be a part of it because of the rules of college football. But it's weird. What was the Florida State? What was his number? Verse? What was his?
He was number 5.
5. Okay. All right. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I'm not that obsessed. No.
Just pop that right off. Huh?
Yeah. Who else do you want to know? I was on Memphis radio the day that we were in Vegas at Q Station. That Monday we were in Vegas. They were doing I was doing a hit with them in the middle of the afternoon on Big 12 Media Days. And our friend Brett Norsworthy, Soki, told me that Michael Trigg will be could really be an X factor. He was really, he knew him from Ole Miss.
Right.
Says that really kind of an intriguing player who just given Ole Miss's roster, shake up that wasn't going to be there and probably fits his personality and Dave Aranda's personality fit better than his and Lane Kiffin's, because two more different human beings I cannot imagine than Lane and Dave.
Right.
So curious to see Michael Trigg and Trevin Maai. He and Jackie Marshall, of the guys in the single digits, to me, the most important ones outside of DeQuan Finn, because they're big dogs and that needs to be better for Baylor on both sides.
Yeah, it definitely does. So that's just a little thing there as far as the jersey numbers. I know there's probably a good number of people that don't even pay that much attention, but it did become a thing around here under Matt Rule, and so now it's a thing once again, and they made that announcement, and there you go. So Jackie Marshall, number 0, all the way to Trevin Maia at number 9, the defensive lineman at number 0 and number 9, and then you got some of the skill guys and a linebacker and Matt Jones there. So excited to see how all that works out in the long run. Meanwhile, Jayden Daniels has officially been named the starting quarterback of the Washington Commanders. That was made official yesterday. Dan Quinn making it known to the press. Second overall pick. He's been with the first team pretty much the entire length of training camp. Has been working in and out, but for the past, 3 weeks or so, he's been arrows pointed at him being the guy at QB1. Not that that's a surprise by any means. You drafted him that highly for a reason, but it's just official. So there you go. Jayden Daniels, what's your excitement level for him?
I've watched him. He scares me because he's somewhat frail, and he's mobile, but I have been impressed with him. I know that there's still a big work in progress, but it seemed like he has invigorated part of that franchise base. Of course, the change in ownership did that too, but I like what I've seen from him.
Paul, have you gotten to watch much Jayden Daniels?
No.
No, because he's a hater. He's a Cowboys fan.
It's also the preseason, and most people aren't paying that close of attention.
And you know how I feel about the preseason. But I've seen some highlights, and I read a lot about it. And so I like to read the local guys who would know. And there seems to be a really good comfort level. I think that Cliff Kingsbury is going to have some fun with him. I think he's got some weapons there that should be fun in year one. I think their offensive line is going to be a little bit better. Read an interesting story about Sam Cosmi the other day. I need to send you.
Former Longhorn.
Yeah. About he had to take a break for a little while, and now he's like back with a vengeance. And
well, good, because they need everybody they can get, especially on the offensive line.
But yeah, really interesting story about him. But I do think he's going to be fun to watch. I think he's going to be fun, but he's got to learn from the last guy who was very similar in skill set to him. That was the quarterback there, especially given the fact that they're going to be playing at that dilapidated stadium for at least a couple years. Where I do think Josh Harris will take better care of the grass than did Dan Snyder.
Yeah, no, they'll take care of
Yeah, and I would hope that
better.
Dan Quinn takes better care of his young quarterback than Mike Shanahan did. Because if you go back and watch that Seattle playoff game, that was as egregious as anything, was the fact that a guy was as hurt as I've ever seen a player on the field that continues to play. Honest to God, I don't think I've ever watched somebody who was clearly as hurt continue playing, and not just like another 5 minutes, like the remainder of the entire game. And they just left him out there.
They led that game 14-0.
That's why he stayed in it.
They got caught up in the euphoria.
They got caught up in they had the high, and then all of a sudden the drug wore off, and you're like, oh, wow, this actually hurts quite a bit. So, I think that was such malpractice, the handling of RG3 against Seattle, and I feel like the Commanders will take better care of their investment.
I also think I think that there is an old school mentality that gets a little – it's fine – if you're talking about rub some dirt on it for a minor injury, but you have to, I think some coaches get too far in it, like, man, this kid's gritty, we're going to throw him out there, or like, get out there and do it. Like, sometimes you got to save a guy from himself.
Yeah, and RG3 wasn't going to take himself out of a game.
Look, I'll give the example of Riley Leonard last year in the FSU game with Duke. Like, he could barely stand up, but he has adrenaline going, and he's over on the sideline running, like trying to run sprints, and Mike Elko had to take his headset off and walk over to him and go, Riley.
Do you know why they have a corner man in boxing that can throw in the towel?
Exactly.
To save the boxer from himself.
Yeah. Like he goes, Riley, we love you. We appreciate this. I'm not putting your career on this.
Yeah,
like there'll be other games you're going to play. And Mike Shanahan did not do that for RG3. He just kind of let him.
Yeah.
No, I mean, you go back and watch that. That was a clearly very injured player who either was making the decision himself, which he shouldn't have been. It should have been out of his hands at that point because, again, you're the head coach. Or the head coach was just saying, we must win this game. He wasn't playing the next week. Like, it was physically going to be impossible. And who was the backup? Kirk Cousins? So, I mean, granted, he's a rookie Kirk Cousins, but
also the guy that – here's the thing that's weird about that looking back is it makes no sense. Cousins was the guy Shanahan actually wanted, and Dan Snyder's the one who wanted RG3.
Yeah, I mean, it's a dead horse. It's like, any other thing that's happened years ago. It's like me with the Oregon Pac-12 officials onside kick BS against Oklahoma that I still will not let go. That was one of the most egregious officiating decisions I've ever seen. Then again, I didn't watch the Pac on a weekly basis. But, that's something that I think, I mean, if you bring up RG3, you're always going to bring up the what if as far as the handling of all of that goes. So anyways, hopefully they avoid that with Jayden Daniels.
He actually hurt his knee the worst against Baltimore on a collision with Elodie Nada. And came back. I think he missed a game or two, but they brought him back too early. The euphoria of a franchise to have a player like that and then to mistreat him. But okay, go ahead.
So like I said, hopefully Jayden Daniels can avoid all of that for Washington, but he is officially the starting quarterback to begin the season, and I don't think that, like I said, comes as much of a surprise. Meanwhile, I know we're going to check in on Cowboys camp later, but John Machota with the latest on CeeDee Lamb. They talked to Jerry today and says not much of an update from Jerry Jones on contract negotiations with Cowboys wide receiver CeeDee Lamb. He said they are having good talks. So we are how many days away from the start of the season?
2 weeks from Thursday, right?
Yeah, and still no deal with CD, who's been working out on his own and doing what he does, and I'm sure he's in shape and all of that, but this has now dragged on almost the entire offseason at this point for the Cowboys. So no update today from Jerry if you were hoping for that.
Remember when Emmett missed the first couple of games of the year after they won the Super Bowl?
And they struggled, and they immediately went and signed him.
Yeah, well, they were 0-2. They lost a game, a tipped interception at the goal line.
Derek Lassick was the running back.
Yeah, and someone slammed him. Maybe Haley slammed his helmet in the locker room, and they signed him the next day. But they broke.
That was 1993 or 4. Yeah.
No, 93.
And that's also when wide receivers very much mattered, but not to the extent that was when Emmett as a running back matters the way CD now matters as a wide receiver.
Absolutely.
Okay, do you know? Okay, so here's what Jerry has not learned since 1993. And by the way, when that happened, we still didn't know who Monica Lewinsky was in 1993. Like, that's how long ago that was. There'd only been one Batman in movies.
Okay.
Like, all these, he still has not learned it. He still has not learned it, that this is not best practices.
He has a hard job because he has the best, perhaps, pass rusher, and it's debatable. There's 4 or 5 names, and Parsons has to pay him. CeeDee Lamb, among the top 2 or 3 wide receivers, has to pay him. And a quarterback, based on just supply and demand, they have to pay him.
Every year they have to do something with Dak's contract, it seems like.
No, it's because of the fact they kept delaying that. But CD, like I said, if he's about $33 million a year, and if that's too low, but let's say that's what he gets, 17 games is around $2 million a week. I don't know of many players who are going to lose $2 million a week every time they miss a game.
He'll be there.
Even if they end up paying him $33 million, he's going. When you miss a game, you're fined. You're not going to get that money back, even if they give him a lot of money in the end. But oh well.
Yep. So
I love the drama. Hope it wrecks him.
The drama continues on, and he says there are productive talks going on, but I feel like that's been sort of the daily update for going on quite a few days now at this point. So we'll see. Maybe you wake up tomorrow and everybody's got the contract that they were looking forward to. So, meanwhile, that's kind of it towards the football world. I did find this interesting, but I don't know how much basketball in the Olympics you guys watched. I watched a good bit. I went on my my little talk about how awesome it was to watch Steph Curry in a Team USA uniform and to be able to root for Team USA as an American, and just what it was like to root for Steph Curry as like one of our guys, not just a member of the team I'm hoping loses. You know, as a Mavericks fan, when I watch the Warriors, I'm like, just try to beat them. But actually to be able to root for Steph and KD and all of these guys, it's just, that was something cool and unique. But Team France, obviously, who they played in the gold medal game, has some talented professional players like Victor Wembanyama, and they made a deep and nice run, and obviously the future there is very bright. But one of their other stars during the Olympics, Gershon Yabusele, has signed a deal with the Philadelphia 76ers, a 1-year, $2.1 million deal. Now, he's been in the NBA before. He was with the Celtics a few years ago. He was a first-round pick of Boston in 2016, but washed out of the league, and now is getting a new opportunity, as I figured some people were going to get coming out of the Olympics. I mean, why wouldn't you, if you were an NBA scout, be watching that and going like, I think that dude could come in and help us? And he was somebody who definitely stood out for France, so I just thought that was cool. He played in the Olympics, go play in the gold medal game, and now you're back in the NBA because of what you did. So, man, go out there, try your best, stay in shape, and your NBA dreams can come true once again.
Well, if I'm watching that gold medal game, you know, other than Wemby, and I'm seeing, okay, well, who is giving us problems? Well, maybe this guy's now developed into an NBA player, because this is the best possible team of NBA players you could maybe put together, save for some, you know, splitting hairs on this guy over this guy who didn't make it. And he was kicking ass.
Yeah,
I mean,
good.
he was absolutely, you know, wearing them out. So, yeah, I would certainly go, well, this is going to make me a smart-looking GM to get this guy on a song who almost gave us the silver medal.
Mm-hmm. No,
in a few years, I mean, might be taking the gold if Team USA is not careful. I mean, France is only going to keep getting better and better. I mean, we're America, so I feel like we're always going to be, you know, grabbing the gold for the most part. But I think France is going to have something to say about that, because they got a young group of guys, and Wemby.
Well, what were the first 2 picks this year? Weren't they?
They're French guys.
Yeah.
They're close to. I don't know if it was
like
exactly
4
1-2, but it was.
Yeah,
several draft picks, all from France and playing in their leagues. And so, yeah, that's, I think, only going to be a tougher opponent. But, yeah, I just thought that was cool. Gershon Yabusele goes from a great run in the Olympics and parlays that into his first NBA contract in about 5 years. So that's very cool, and a good testament to just being persistent and staying in shape. And close it out with this. The AL West has taken a turn since the last time we talked baseball, which was like a month ago.
And
the Astros.
And we shouldn't be talking baseball now.
Well, I am. So the Astros lead the AL West by 5 games now. They were in the second and third spot, I think, the last time we checked in on them. The Rangers have continued to just be – I mean, they've been the same team basically the entire year. They haven't gone on a run that can keep them in contention at this point, so it is what it is. It's a throwaway year, quite frankly. Whether intentional or not, I think it was unintentional. I thought they were going to be better than they were.
Very unintentional.
But
yeah.
I think at this point, it's just like – everybody's ready for the season to end is kind of what it feels like in some ways.
Imagine how you would feel if they had not won it last year. We would be in that
That's why I don't care.
No, no. We would be in that same doldrum. But now at least you have that to cling on to.
Right, and that's the whole point is I don't care that they're struggling this year. I mean, I do as a fan. It'd be nicer to watch them playing games that matter, but I'm fine with a honeymoon period of a year. Now, I'll say next year they need to be competitive and need to be right back in the race, but I'm not shocked that they are hungover, and especially with the injuries they had early on. But they're 11 games back now at this point, 10 games under 500 at 58 and 68. Astros, 11 games up, like I said, as they lead the AL West on the Rangers, but 5 games up on Seattle, who's done their typical Mariners thing. Be pretty good for most of the regular season, then fade when it starts to really matter the most.
Yep.
That is very Seattle Mariners baseball. So they've started to slide. And really, the Astros have just gotten better. They're 12 games above 500.
They have some guy they picked up a pitcher. His last 4 games, he's thrown like 20-something innings, giving up 4 runs.
Yeah.
They have people who gave them a spark.
They've made a really good turnaround.
Did you hear Chris Young's quote on this season for the Rangers?
No.
Could I share it with you?
Go ahead.
I want us to go play with passion and energy and grit and fight and determination and F you behind them because this season's been embarrassing for us.
Yeah, it has. I mean, they haven't been entertaining really at all outside of little spurts here and there, a little thing every few days or something that you can attach yourself to. But compared to actually being competitive from start to finish, this has been a season where that's not been in the cards at all.
Well, they thought that by the All-Star break, they were going to have one of the best starting rotations in baseball. Well, Max Scherzer barely has played this year. DeGrom, he'll get a couple of spot starts in September, and they'll see how he's doing to build back up. But that's the only thing they're going to see from DeGrom. Evaldi has been good for them, but been hurt. Tyler Mahle came back. He's pitched 2 good starts. He's back on the DL again. So nothing in their pitching staff has been consistent. It didn't help that Adolis Garcia has not
to about 210.
Yeah, been hit about now. He's gotten hot lately, but it's too little, too late.
Yeah. And that's okay. He's my hero.
Yeah,
that's
but
fine.
he's an impending free agent, so they've got decisions to make. I trust Chris Young in the offseason to refresh better, and
to me,
they'll be healthier. But
they won a World Series. That's wonderful. A lot of great memories for a lot of players, but nobody should be untouchable moving forward.
But Josh Young's been out for most of the year. Again, a freak injury, but he's back. Corey Seager's been out for a couple little stretches. Marcus Simeon's amazing, and he's stood the test of time. And Evan Carter.
But Simeon has not had a good year.
Not by his standards.
No, well, I mean,
not by his standards.
And you wonder about, is it just a down year because they played every single pitch, every inning last year?
No.
Or is he on the edge of maybe a decline?
I don't think it is. I think if you look at offensive numbers around the league, they're pretty down, across the board. So these things are cyclical. I think he'll be fine.
So you mentioned Jacob deGrom. He is working his way back, is going to make a couple of rehab assignments, which is part of the reason why I brought the Rangers up. And Bruce Bochy on that, them not being in contention said, and deGrom as well said that it's important for him to get some reps in this year. But really it's just to get out there and get some time back in the saddle. But all the focus is on next year already. But they're going to at least let him get out there and, just get back into the mix. Test drive things and, floor the pedal and see how the car reacts to that and, do all those types of things to see where you are. But most of the focus is on next year. So, you talk about a good gig. 5-year, $185 million contract before last season for Jacob deGrom, and he pitched what feels like 3 times and won a World Series and is just still in the team rehabbing this entire time basically. But 5 years, 185 in a World Series ring for it. I mean, what a I know for him, the money doesn't matter. It's like, dude, because you made $100 billion already. So, yeah, the money doesn't matter. The winning, you won a World Series, didn't even play, basically. So I'm sure this sucks for him. Don't get me wrong. But it's like, if it was going to suck, this is the best way possible because you're on a winning team and you got a fat contract. But I'm sure he's ready to just play baseball and be healthy. So we'll get to see a little bit of him. But the Rangers, as far as anything substantial this season, we can go ahead and say that's not in the cards and that's not going to happen. So there you go. There's a few things off the radar.
I used to go home and I don't watch like pitch by pitch. Obviously, last year was different. And I used to just have the game on, and now I don't even put it on my YouTube TV. Well, a lot of their games aren't on YouTube TV, but I have Spectrum still. Do you know the last time, and I don't know the answer to this, that somebody won a batting title in either league and did not hit 300?
I believe it was Jim Rice. It might have been. I know that because
I know Carl Yastrzemski hit 301 in 1968 when they raised the mound. The next year they put it back down because McClain won 31 games and Gibson had a 1.12 ERA. I'm trying to think. Here's why I brought Yastrzemski hit 301. Jim Rice, I don't know. He's not in here.
Okay.
But the leader in the National League batting leader is Marcell Ozuna, heck of a player, is leading the National League with a 309 average. The guy that I always bring up, and I don't know how to say his name, Arraez, for a 304.
As much as you bring him up, you need to go and watch videos on him.
They are the only two hitting over 300 in the National League right now. If Ozuna, who's really good, there's not a lot of games left, was to go into an 0 for 20 slump or something, there's a chance that could be an under 300 league batting leader, which would be rather interesting in the end. How do you say his name?
Luis Arraez.
Okay, Arraez. Okay, all right. But I can't fathom the last time anyone under 300 won a batting title.
Luis Arraez, who last year, this is how numbers are down. Last year, he was threatening 400 for a little bit.
For a while. Not like as long as Gwynn did or Boggs did one time. But
Larry Walker.
Boy, the numbers are down when you talk about offense. No, but the league leader in wins is like 14 for either league. And there's not many games left, so you might not even have an 18-game winner.
It's never happened in the National League.
Okay.
I'm going to the American League right now, and, Rod Carew hit 359 and 364 back-to-back years. Unbelievable.
Focus.
Sorry.
I think Yastrzemski, the 301.
Yeah, it's the lowest one.
Yeah. Craig, you want to wrap it up?
I already did.
I know, but you say something at the end.
I already did.
Oh, you said
you started talking over me. Yeah.
I didn't talk over you. I wanted to bring up the National League, the batting average. I'm sorry if I talked over you. When we come back, Mickey Spagnola, DallasCowboys.com. This is 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac are the people that you can count on for your automotive needs. And guess not, you want to dump out of this or you want me to keep going here? Okay. Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac. They are the people that you can count on, and they've got great summer savings going on right now over at the dealership. They've got great customer service as well for you to check out, and that's whether you're looking to go new, whether you're going pre-owned, whether you're just getting your car fixed up. They can accommodate all of those needs, and they can do so in one instance if you're looking to buy new with the multi-pro tailgate, first-class interior, and power to get any job done with the GMC Sierra, the truck for Texans who want to drive the best. Right now, save $9,000 on all 2024 GMC Sierra SLT trucks in stock with a 2010 or newer trade-in for qualified buyers. You can find Sierra trucks under $40,000. See dealer for more information there. And if you want to also look at the pre-owned vehicles, they've got plenty of options there as well. A lot full of quality pre-owned cars and trucks, over 100 vehicles, price to move. And as always, their goal is always 100% credit approval. Another one of their new offerings right now, they've got the electric vehicle, the Cadillac Lyriq. If you're in the market for an electric vehicle, it's a must-drive, and you will see and feel the difference over everyday electric vehicles instantly when getting into the Cadillac Lyriq. So come test drive a Lyriq today over at Richard Carr Cadillac. So there's a couple of the options for you. And they want you to experience their great customer service, and they want you to see their value and have confidence when looking for a pre-owned car and truck or a new vehicle. So come check them out today. It's time for football and time for savings at the Kickoff the Savings event at Richard Carr Motors.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? by not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference, and that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Ready to take your business to the next level? Carrion Solutions has got you covered. We deliver world-class IT consulting, including Quest On Demand and Migration Manager, M365 and Exchange migrations, Active Directory assessments, security hardening, and Windows Server upgrades. Our experts specialize in consulting, monitoring, support, and managed IT services. We promise vision, professionalism, and unbeatable value. Satisfaction guaranteed. If you're not happy, we make it right. Remember the name Carrion Solutions. For more info, email sales@carrionsolutions.com or visit carrionsolutions.com. That's CARRION solutions.com. Carrion Solutions IT success guaranteed.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
He is to humanity what bacon is to breakfast. He is allowed to use his cell phone on an airplane. He is Cesar Leal of Leal's Mexican Restaurant.
I don't always eat Mexican food, but when I do, I prefer Leal's.
Leal's Mexican Restaurant, 9000 Panther Drive in Woodway, 254-772-8140.
This is 365 Sports, powered by SicEm365.com.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Brad Wilson. Investing is time and experience back to you and your money during today's changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoke, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoke.
Cowboys training camp wrapping up along with everybody else around the league this week. We are not that far from the opening of the week. The football season 2 weeks from Thursday will be the openers in the NFL. Mickey Spagnuolo from Dallas Cowboys training camp in Oxnard, California, about to wrap up, as I mentioned. Mickey, I want to get into CeeDee Lamb, and he will end up agreeing, and the Cowboys will pay him or whatever. But let's say they get into week one, the opener, and he misses that game. And he's going to get paid $33, $34, $35, whatever $1 million a year. Do teams ever eventually put that back into the contract and negotiate, or will he actually lose money in week one if he doesn't play?
Like if he doesn't play?
Yep.
He will not get paid the $1 million that he's guaranteed. Because he's on a contract, remember?
Mm-hmm.
They picked up his fifth-year option, and it was $17.99. So for argument's sake, yeah, he doesn't get that. And how long do you want to keep losing money? Now, I understand your question. It's like they can put $2 million more in the package, and then he doesn't lose anything. But I think right now, from what I can tell, it's like the negotiation is about length of contract and how much guaranteed money. Somebody pointed out to me that the agent that he has likes to sign his guys to 3-year deals. Well, 3-year deals mean that you're not going to get as big of a signing bonus because then you can't spread that out over the length of the contract. So then, if that's the case, now, do you want a bigger base salary package? There's a lot of things that have to get worked out yet before this thing gets done. It'll get done at some point, but it's not as easy as, well, just pay the guy, right? Because there's a lot of things to consider, especially the salary cap. And that's the big question right now.
It's not like he's sitting on his couch eating Golden Chick right now. waiting to get the contract. He'll be in shape. I mean, it's CeeDee Lamb, but he also hasn't been doing football activities. When Des Bryant went through a similar situation, he was slow at the start of the season to get back in. How much concern is there for that when CeeDee gets back in the fold?
Well, I guess there's some concern. Michael Irvin went through the same thing. He didn't sign till like Wednesday before the season opener. People forgot that. And, I would have to go look up his numbers that year, but I bet they were still pretty darn good. But then that's Michael, right? Because we know how hard he would have been working while he was missing the entire training camp. So, it affects Zach Martin, didn't sign his extension or his pay increase. He missed 3 weeks of training camp, and he admitted that he felt like he got off to a slow start because of the fact that, he missed doing football stuff. You can do all the workout stuff you want, but you got to do the basically a lot of practice is premeditated steps. You got to be out there playing football. And so, I think it would be somewhat of a concern, but I don't think it's as big a concern as caving in on the negotiations, right? And saying, okay, well, we'll just pay you. I don't think that they feel that they need to do that since he's under contract.
Mickey Spagnola with us, DallasCowboys.com. Mickey, when you look at the final roster spots, which is coming up, I guess, in about, a week, and there'll be a lot of movement, players in and out. How many positions do you think will be filled by players who are not on their current roster?
Well, you have to first. Well, on the first final roster, it'll be guys on the current roster, right? Then you got to see what's available. Okay, so now you got to look and say, okay, what's available that ain't better than what we have. A lot of times you're looking for experience, David, especially at the backup swing tackle position. They have no experience there whatsoever. So I would imagine they're going to keep their eyes open for that. But there's not enough offensive linemen to go around in this league for starters, let alone a backup swing tackle, right? To say somebody's going to have an excess of one or two and let them go, they have to cut them. So I don't know that they can count on that. So I think it's very vitally important that they keep working. And I think the one guy now that's probably in the lead on that is Austin Richards, last year's 5th, 6th round pick, but he didn't play hardly any last year. So he has no experience. So yeah, I think that probably is one of the trouble positions, that they have. And I hate to say it because I wasn't big on Chuma Edoga, but at least he had played in the NFL. They don't really have that now, losing him, and he wouldn't be available when they put him on injured reserve to around Thanksgiving. And they changed the rules now on the IR return. You can put 2 guys on now, and you can recall them after the 4 weeks. And then you can have 6 more guys that are on after the 53 that you can recall. But again, you don't want to start doing that because you might lose somebody here between now and the season opener that's more important to you than Chuma Edoga. So they've got some decisions to make here, and about 2 weeks left to make them.
Jerry Jones said today that Trey Lance will be on the final roster on the 53.
Of course.
I guess maybe it's would be a minor surprise given all that, but they gave him a 4th round pick for him. They're giving him a lot of reps. This last outing better than the first. He's still just so ridiculously raw, Mickey. What is the long-term future for him and the Cowboys if he does continue to develop?
Well, they've got one more game to see it, right?
Yeah.
Because after that, I don't think he's done enough to unseat Cooper Rush as the backup quarterback. So if that's the case, then after this game, he's not going to get that many snaps. Now, they may see something there and say, okay, let's continue giving him something in practice to maybe let him run the scout team a little bit more. But other than that, he's not going to get in a game. So their evaluation for the future has to take place basically in 2 weeks, because he's on the final year of his contract. And again, and I think they ended up, it's $5 million, something like that. And I think it's guaranteed. So yeah, he was always going to be on the roster. It's just a matter of what they could get out of him. And the future, what's the future? Because are you going to sign him to a multi-year deal and say, okay, he's my backup of the future? And I don't know that they've got all that information yet.
How the Mozzie Smith last week could not make the trip, the allergic reaction, whatever was going on there. How much did he just miss playing and getting more snaps in a game that he would have played a lot?
Yeah, but you know what? He got a lot of snaps when they practiced the Rams. He probably would have got, I don't know, 20 snaps, something like that. Look, it was one of those weird deals. He's allergic to peanuts, and he took a protein drink that, unbeknownst to him, I don't know if he didn't read the label or he didn't take the right one, and it had peanut product in it. And he's had it happen before, so he knew exactly what it was and what to tell the medical people. So that was the reason, you got to take him to the hospital, because he's got your body revolts, right? And it also, my understanding, it causes your throat to swell and constrict. And so, it's somewhat concerning. He got a hell of a lot of snaps today in practice, first team reps when they went team. So yeah, again, it would have been nice to see him out there against first string players. But when they practice out here, he goes against the Cowboys defense or offense. So they'll just kind of multiply the snaps between now and, when they have to start preparing for the opener against Cleveland.
The Cowboys have done a really good job, at least just off the top of my head, of when they draft offensive linemen pretty high, they hit on them. And Tyler Guyton looks like he's going to be a guy that they hit on. I know it's early. He hasn't taken an official snap yet, but is he as advertised?
I think he's still got some growth, right? It's not a finished product. It's not like, Tyron Smith coming in at the ninth pick in the draft.
Right.
So, this is the 29th pick in the draft. He shows he's got good feet. I think his technique with his hands has to improve, and he'll get better, but he by no means is he a finished product when they hit that season opener on September 8th. He's got some growth, but you know what? He's going to be the starter, and at this point, it looks like Cooper Beebe is going to win the starting center job. If we look at just how they practiced today, I didn't see Brock Hoffman take many, if any, snaps with the first team offense. So you're going to have two young guys there. And, hey, Tyler Smith is not exactly a grizzled veteran, right? Mm-hmm. So it's going to be a pretty young offensive line. And even Terrence Steele, fourth year, fifth year, I'm trying to remember. But we're talking a guy that started off as an undrafted rookie free agent. So, it's going to be a pretty young offensive line, but that's the situation they're in. They knew what they, were up against when they made those draft picks. But so far, I think Beebe has showed that he looks like he's making the transition to center very well.
Zach Martin's the other one who's not going to get carded in that group.
Mickey, right?
For sure. Yeah. Linebacker was, the bad luck position last year. They had so many injuries. And again, it's not like you just go out and sign one, off the street that's going to be great for you in your system.
As Bill Parcells would say, Paul, you can't go down to Texaco and buy one.
No, but it is a position that they've addressed. Overshone is back. They addressed it in the draft with Maris Liafu. So how do you feel about that position, and especially maybe even Damone Clark, who they were really high on going into last year, but didn't really get to play where he was probably the best at, going through the rest of training camp?
Well, I would feel better at it if Damone Clark and Overshone were practicing on a full-time basis now. Clark has a little bit of a knee soreness. Overshone missed the game against the Raiders. He was in pads today. I didn't see him take a heck of a lot of snaps. So they need to get those two guys healthy and ready to go. But again, you mentioned Liufau. He was working with Kendricks at first team linebacker, and when they were going 3 linebackers in some of the situations, they found this other guy, Willie Harvey from the UFL, that they really like. And so there's some young guys getting snaps in practice that they wouldn't have been getting in the first place. But if everybody is healthy, I kind of like the linebacker situation. And that's not even pointing out that, Mike Zimmer would like to play Micah Parsons a little bit more at linebacker in certain situations. So if you put all that together, the linebacker position is much better shape, providing they're healthy, than they were last year after losing Van Der Esch and basically didn't have any backups really to take his place.
All right, I got a random question for you. I've been in, this will be my 44th year of covering football. How many for you?
It will be my 41st season since I got here in the middle of the 84 season, covering the Cowboys in some form or fashion. Yeah.
But you had
39, 39 training camps.
Okay, but many other years you've also covered things before you started covering the Cowboys. That's when we got to know you. There was a tweet by Eden Lasse Duran. Her tweet said, and I want to take you back to all the years you've been inside of stadiums. One of the things they don't prepare you for in sports journalism school is just how much time you'll spend wandering around the bowels of various arenas trying to figure out where the blank you're supposed to be.
Well, that happened Saturday.
Oh, did it?
There was more walking going on in Allegiant Stadium. Everything seemed to be so spread out, and when we got done and went down from the press box after the game, I swear to God, I felt like I walked a mile to get where McCarthy's press conference was. There was just a lot of walking going on. And then the other thing, David, that's going on right now, it's the press credentials we have. Everything's facial recognition. And I can't tell you how many times I looked into a screen and it's like it's got to pop up your face, and they got your name. And I'll tell you, one time I went past where the entrance was, where the facial recognition was. I took one step past it, and I said, "Oh hell, I forgot something." I went back to get it, and the lady said, "Well, you got to scan in again." And I said, "Seriously, you just saw me take one step, right? No, you got to scan in again." So there's another. My fear back in the day was that I would get locked in a stadium because you're working so late, right?
Yeah, especially a high school stadium, covered high school football game late into the night. Yeah,
exactly. So, everything's changed, but these stadiums are so big and we're up so high. There's a lot of walking going on. So I get my 10,000 steps a day.
Mickey, I think if you polled all of us in the media, there are places in stadiums that we should have never been or had no point being, but because no one was there to tell us not to be there.
Yeah, we were there.
I can tell you about at least 25 loading docks of stadiums, none of which, maybe one of which I should have been at.
Yeah, and now.
Well, this one will make David happy because I remember one year I was working still in Columbia, Missouri, covering Missouri football. They were at Nebraska, and we worked about late as we could work, and it took us, I'll guarantee you, 10 minutes walking around trying to find a door that would open to let us out. And my big fear was always getting locked into the stadium and have to sleep there, right?
Yep.
And this one came close because I think all we found was one door to get out.
Yeah, it can be that way, especially with as large as they are now, and the concourses are massive, rather than just the stadium when you walk into the field. Thanks for your
But
time.
at least we got a phone though to call for help.
Well, that's good. Good, but hey, thanks, Mickey. Enjoy the rest of your trip for the next couple of days in Oxnard and back into reality of flying back into DFW. The season just around the corner. When we come back, John McClain, Hall of Fame columnist, and this is 365 Sports. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco. Here are the specials they have for the rest of the week, including up until they close their doors on Saturday at 5. Ring bologna at $4.25 a pound. Chicken tenders, $3.25 a pound. They have select choice and prime brisket from $3.85 a pound all the way up to $4.70 a pound. Boneless pork butt, $1.99 a pound. They have scallops about 10 to a pound at $23 a pound. Bacon ends and pieces at $1.99 a pound. Full service butcher shop, full service bakery. They have cold beer and wine. They can be and should be your go-to for when it comes to tailgating with what you want to cook on the grill or in the smoker, but also for what you need when it comes to charcoal and pellet fuel and marinades and seasonings, from anything as simple as salt and pepper to fancy type seasonings for whatever you're going to do, whether it's brisket, tri-tip, chicken, or hamburgers. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
When it comes to me and my money, I know the way it should be. I need a partner I can count on. That's Genco and me. Genco is my credit union. They're always there for me. They're people I trust. They treat me like family. My money, my future, my credit union. Genco.
Automatic Chef is your local vending, office coffee, and micro market provider, delivering outstanding service to break rooms all over Central Texas for over 50 years. Automatic Chef brings the best products to your location at the best prices. With hundreds of choices in fresh food, coffee, snacks, and drinks, let Automatic Chef tailor a break room solution to your needs. Make break time great again with Automatic Chef. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchef.com.
Bambi SQ, what is the number one reason or two or three reasons, Bambi, that people should contact House of Travel?
As a travel agency local here in Waco, we can take care of all your bookings, your payments, answer your questions, help you when there are issues or problems, things that may come up that you don't know what to do or how to fix them. People don't realize we don't charge a fee for what we do. It doesn't cost you extra to use a travel agent. We're just here. We get paid by the tour companies and the cruise lines to represent them. But you have an expert on your side that's here and local, and you have a name and a face to put together to help you with anything that you may need. Give us a call. We can price things for you. We can help you answer questions. We can make it simple, easy, and one stop.
Your knowledge of all the years you've done this and then spit it back to them or give them options?
It helps us to kind of know a date range, a budget, what your goals are and what you want to see and do on your vacation. And then that helps us to know what to look for, and we can narrow down and help you make the best choices for your vacation so you get the best value. You get exactly what you were hoping for, and making sure that it's taken care of with a carefree, easy, simple for you type vacation. I've been doing this for over 40 years. Every day I learn something new. I experience new situations and things that I can help take care of for people, whether it's just making sure you get the best deals and find the best vacations, or whether it's to solve that problem, like you've got a flight that's being canceled and you don't know what to do. There's weather coming up. Should I cancel my trip next week because of the hurricane? Those are things that we take care of and you don't have to worry about. You've got somebody that you can rely on that you know is an expert, knows what we're doing, have been doing this for a long time, so that you're not questioning, okay, does the person on the other end of the phone really understand what I'm asking or know how to find those deals? You've got an expert, and we are here to take care of that.
For more information, go to houseoftravelwaco.com. Don's Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. Don's Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Want to send a message to the show? Jump in the Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue chat room.
We are joined by John McClain, Hall of Fame columnist, with us on 365 Sports with Craig and Paul David Smoke. John, I just asked Mickey this question, but when a player like a CeeDee Lamb who's under contract decides to hold out and wants a new deal, and at some point he will get pretty much what he wants and the Cowboys will get kind of what they want too. If they get into the season and start missing games, he's under contract, so he would be fined. How often does a team say, okay, you would have been fined $2 or $3 million, but we're going to build that into the new contract so basically he doesn't get fined?
Used to, David, on before the last collective bargaining agreement, teams would always forgive the fine. They say, okay, you've agreed to this contract, we'll forget about it. Well, in the last CBA, they wanted to eliminate holdouts. So they put it in there. If you held out, you got fined $40,000 a day, massive amounts of money, and it couldn't be forgiven. So, but if you're on your rookie contract like Lamb is, you can forgive it. So all these fines that he is compiling, when he agrees to a deal, they can say no problem. But if you're a veteran on your second or third contract, you have to build it in to help offset what they were fined, and that happens all the time.
John, the Texans getting ready for the season. You know, you've seen a couple preseason games now. Where do you think that they are maybe a little bit lacking? Where do you think they're better than they were a year ago? Does this look like a team that is primed for a back-to-back nice little run?
Paul, one of the reasons they drafted 5 defensive players, including their first pick, Mari Lassiter, who's going to be outstanding, is because of the schedule and the quarterbacks they go against. So they're looking for depth, and they're looking for several starters on defense. They had 5 turnovers against the Giants. They won 28-10 on Saturday. The defense looked really good, but Daniel Jones is pathetic. He threw a pass that Jalen Petrie returned for a touchdown. Paul, you could have returned that for a touchdown. And maybe even David. I know Craig could.
Yes, sir.
And it was just a terrible decision by Daniel Jones. And the media was just like, oh, my God. But the defense did look good. But the biggest disappointment is the running game. The Texans haven't had a good running game since Arian Foster was there. It's been pathetic since 2019. And they got Joe Mixon, who's averaged 12 touchdowns and 1,400 yards rushing and receiving the last 3 years, been very durable. He got hurt, missed a lot of camp. He's 100%. They think he doesn't need to play. So he will not have played in preseason. They're confident he can play in that zone scheme that Dameon Pierce cannot. Dameon Pierce was so impressive as a rookie 2 years ago, does not have the patience to excel in the zone scheme. I don't have any reason that they should keep him on the team because they got some young guys who are better. But this running game, Paul, has got to get better, even though we'd love to see Stroud throw on every down because they're so exciting when they throw the ball because they got so many receivers.
John, what have been your thoughts seeing the new kickoff rules in action?
Well, first of all, Craig, the ball is about where it usually is. And the 25, it's like the 26. But special teams coordinators have been holding back. they've been holding back because they've got some things up their sleeves. And if somebody unveils something, say the Cowboys do, and it works, then other teams are going to go, aha, we're going to try that. Ultimately, I believe the line of scrimmage will be just about the same as it has been, but there will be some excitement because we're going to have returns.
Yeah, I don't want to see the dynamic special teams return type people be eliminated from the game. You don't see that happening at some point, do you?
Well, they've already done it because of the rules, because statistics showed players got hurt more on kickoff returns than anything else, and it becomes so boring, uneventful, that they might as well have just not had a kickoff and put it at the 25-yard line. And this is on a trial basis, which means it could be out after 1 year. Before they voted in permanently, which means you'd have to keep it for 3 years. But they want returns. And by lining up the kicking team right across from the receiving team, they're hoping that is going to eliminate all those collisions that we used to see regularly on kickoff returns.
John McClain, Hall of Fame columnist with us Tuesdays, usually around 5:30 on 365 Sports.
John, is there a story that you're tired of more than maybe Brandon Ayuk and what could happen with him?
Well, it's the same one you guys are tired of. It's the same one everybody in the country is tired of. If I have to hear about Dak Prescott or CeeDee Lamb's contract, I'm going to throw up. And I can't imagine what it's like for you guys being in the middle of cowboy country and all the talk shows in Dallas. I'm told by friends of mine in the Metroplex they have not seen this much apathy in the Cowboys since Dave Campo was the coach.
I was just on the phone with somebody who is there covering Cowboys camp, and they said this year was so weird. It like their word was it sucked to be there, which is never something any of us say, even in a weird year. But there's some weird stuff going on around the Cowboys right now, John, because of all this, and it just feels off. Like they're preparing for the fall.
Who's going to be the running back? Who's going to emerge? The more Jerry talks about he's going to get CeeDee Lamb done, the more the agent is going to jack up the price. Jerry should not be commenting on any contract negotiation. He should have ended it after the first time he commented in training camp. And by the way, whoever told you they didn't like being on the beach where the weather is 70-something degrees, the high, and you can walk and run on that walkway on the water? Give me a bleeping break. Send them down here to cover the Texans outdoors every day.
John, Jayden Daniels named the starter in Washington. That, of course, isn't much of a surprise, but I was just curious of what kind of returns or just early rumblings you've heard on Daniels in D.C. and just kind of what are you expecting as far as this upcoming season with Dan Quinn taking over?
I think he and Caleb Williams and Bo Nix have been terrific. The advantage that he has, Daniels, he's coached by Cliff Kingsbury. And we all know from watching Cliff coach at Texas Tech and then Kyler Murray, you know, they have got a really good offensive coordinator, play caller there, who wants to be a head coach again. So he's in a really good situation. Now, Caleb Williams got a defensive head coach, could be a little bit different. And I tell you what, the more I see of Bo Nix, the more I like him. 61 starts in college, and it looks like, yes, he will be the starter. You know, Sean Payton loves it. Everybody talks about Sean Payton's quarterback guru. If we coach Drew Brees, we might be called quarterback gurus as well.
John, last thing for you. The Astros have exploded, wide open now. They are going to coast, it appears, to win the AL West. And, you know, it was kind of up for grabs. We didn't know how they would react to last year when they were left out for the first time in a while. It seems like they've made a lot of moves. I know I watch your Twitter feed. You get frustrated, but they seem to be about to just pop that AL West and win by 10 games.
I'm headed to Minute Maid Park with my good friend Tony Peterson, also from Waco, worked at the Trib and the Chronicle. We're going to see them. They were 7-19 since May 1st. They have the best record in baseball. They've done it without Kyle Tucker. He has missed more games than he played. June 3rd, he got hurt. We don't know if he'll be back. Justin Verlander pitching tomorrow. He's missed more than 2 months. They have 4 starting pitchers on injured reserve. Their pitching is carrying them right now. They've got legitimate hitters in Jose Altuve, Yordan Alvarez, Yainer Diaz, and Jeremy Pena. And until Alex Bregman comes back, they're going to struggle at the plate. But, man, their pitching is great. You guys know you get into a 3-game series in the playoffs, you need 3 pitchers. Astros going to be hard to beat.
No question. Thank you very much, John. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, guys. Take 'em Bears.
John McClain, Hall of Fame writer for, years and years, a part of the NFL Hall of Fame selection committee, ballot voter, all of that, and himself honored by the NFL. All right, when we come back, Paul Catalina and his top 5. This is 365 Sports. Coming up in just not this week, but next week, at the end of next week, the TexasBeefHouse.com live auction is back. It's August 28th and 29th, which would be on Thursday and Friday of next week. You go to TexasBeefHouse.com, and when you do, you will see a video of Samantha Duvall promoting what they'll have in this one. And then on top of that, there's also a link to BidOnBeef.com, which is who actually handles the auction. I went online and looked at all of the various steaks that will be available. This will be packed with steaks, from fillets to ribeyes to tomahawk ribeyes to much more, to flat iron, which Samantha talks about is great for fajita meat, to skirt steak, good for fajita meat, and much, much more. Angus beef bacon, Wagyu and Angus beef products, steak products available. It's next Thursday and Friday, the 28th and 29th, by going to TexasBeefHouse.com.
For Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Texas Beef House. Where's the best beef in Texas? Your house when you order from Texas Beef House. Unleash the flavor of Texas raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
Welcome in, Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Texas Beef House. We continue our build to the perfect college football team. And for the perfect steak, go to TexasBeefHouse.com. Bid in one of the auctions and use promo code 365sports for a 10% discount off of your order. Today, we're doing linebackers. And I just kind of put them all in here because some are inside, some are outside. I'm going to go through the guys you want on your team that can do a lot of things. The first one we're going to get to, Barrett Carter from Clemson.
This dude is so freaking good. If I had to list the best players in the ACC, he's 1 or 2. Bottom line, any way you slice it, one of the best players in the ACC, and single-handedly a reason that Clemson will be in a lot of games this year against other good teams because he just makes so many ridiculous plays. He's sideline to sideline. He gets after the running back in the run game. He does it all. If you're an NFL fan and you need a linebacker, this is one of the guys you definitely want on your team next season. Barrett Carter is lethal. He's crazy. He's old school. I kind of can't believe he didn't go in the draft this year, but back at Clemson for one more ride with the Tigers and Dabo Swinney, and will be lethal. Wait till you watch that game against Georgia. Don't know how it's going to come out, but I promise you he'll have 12 tackles in that game and maybe a big game-changing play. Next up, Danny Stutzman, friend of the show from Oregon. He didn't just make this list because he's a friend of the show. Long, lean, athletic. You can move him all over the field. More of an outside guy than an inside guy, but someone who has gotten better each and every year. Comes back to Oklahoma under Brent Venables for another year. This is going to be one of the key cogs in their defense. And for a team that struggled defensively previous to Brent Venables, I hope you noticed that yesterday, Billy Bowman at nickelback, Danny Stutzman at linebacker today on the team. Brent Venables building that team in his image. And he's one of the best defensive coaches in the country. And he'll use Danny Stutzman to get after all kind of people on the field this year for the Sooners. Next up, Jay Higgins at Iowa. 12.2 tackles a game for the Hawkeyes. Matter of fact, most of those wins kind of on the back of Jay Higgins. He was the one who led that defense, who was the centerpiece of that defense, and the reason that they had double-digit wins last year, because we all know it wasn't because of the offense. And if they are able to repeat that again, it's going to be in large part to the fact that Jay Higgins is in on almost every play. Again, I'm going to say he averaged 12.2 tackles a game last year for the Hawkeyes. That's just the average. So that means that sometimes he might have had a little less. Sometimes he had a lot more. There are games where this guy is going to have 20 tackles in a game. He is going to stuff your running game. He is going to get after things. Jay Higgins, one of the most exciting players. I really love this guy at Iowa. Next up, Jason Henderson at ODU. Now, an Old Dominion linebacker on this list. Well, he has similar numbers to Jay Higgins in that double-digit tackles per game. He's just built like an old-school middle linebacker. Look at this guy right here. Look at those arms. Just ripped, squatty, low to the ground. Gets after you, put his helmet right in your chest. Really good against the run. Really good in the pass game as well. Probably a little underrated. And a player that is going to get All-America recognition when the season is over. Actually, he's probably of the major All-American teams, he's on the second team of about 4 of the prominent ones. So the country is noticing Jason Henderson at ODU. Kind of surprised that the next level didn't notice him as much and go and get him. Or maybe he just likes ODU a lot. But this is someone you got to keep your eye on. And the last one, I'm not labeling him a linebacker. I'm labeling him a nightmare. Harold Perkins at LSU. Not used the right way last year. Had to adjust to being a full-time linebacker. But they're going to move him all over the field from middle to outside to the defensive line. So trying to put up a position on him, I just called him a nightmare. Brian Baker, the new defensive coordinator there, he has the best toy to play with in the entire country when it comes to moving things around. He is a Micah Parsons type player and can play a lot of places. And Brian Baker will figure out, and probably already has figured out how to use him. Look for Harold Perkins this year to have double-digit sacks, double-digit tackles per game, create turnovers, create havoc. This is what he's going to do. The LSU defense's rebuild is built around him. Brian Baker knows it, and more importantly, Brian Kelly knows it. And you will see number 4 wreaking havoc in the SEC in 2024, rebounding off an uneven season last year. That's going to do it for the top 5. Tomorrow, defensive line. My favorite position on the defense. Super fun. Lots of guys maybe you haven't thought about building this perfect college football team. This is 365 Sports. We're wrapping it up right now.
All right, Paul, thank you very much. As closing in on football season, it will begin this weekend. 11 o'clock Saturday morning. We've highlighted it with the coverage at Florida State end of it and also others. And then tomorrow we'll get a Georgia Tech writer who's actually been on vacation in France, Kelly Quinlan, who will be in Ireland, when we talk with him tomorrow on the show. Let me see. There's a couple of notes. Paxton saying that there are insiders at UT that think that Anthony Hill will be better than Jalen Ford.
Well, I mean,
he's a very highly recruited player.
Yeah.
Ford was a grinder who made himself into a hell of a player.
Yeah, for their sake, I hope he's right. But I need. If you notice, all the guys I have on there have a lot more stats on the wall than Ant Hill does right now. So, and I like Ant Hill. I think he's a good player, but I'm talking about guys who last year are coming back that all average double-digit tackles a game or close to it, or are ridiculous game changers like Barrett Carter and Harold Perkins. Barrett Carter, I was surprised, came back. Jeremiah Trotter Jr. left, and he's playing for his father's, his Eagles team now. And but I think Barrett Carter, like I said in the top 5, could be one of the top 2 players. If I ranked the top players in the ACC, I don't know if I'd have him 1 or 2, but he is so damn good.
Yeah, again, every time we close out a show, the top 5 with Paul Catalina as he continues to wind the clock towards the start of the college football season. Let me see here. I think most of the other discussions about players that you mentioned or did not mention are pretty much done. Some S. Michael DeHart. Another great show today. What's for supper? Hot bologna sandwiches with fresh cut homemade fries. I've never thought of that combination before.
It's very West Virginia, sounds like to me.
Never have I done that before.
You throw a pepperoni roll in there, and then it's all over.
Yeah, I did a grilled cheese and ham the other day, which was just randomly on a Wednesday or whatever. Just did that. It was always good. Always enjoyed the grilled cheese sandwiches. Jack McKenzie, thank you very much for what you've done today to run the mothership. Garrett is back tomorrow. Jack will be the happiest man on earth. Emery Winter is working on 365 Sports tonight with 4 segments that will run tonight on the local CW at 10:30. Thanks to all of our great sponsors to help us every day be where we are and have what we have. We appreciate them. For Craig Smoke and for Paul Catalina, thank you in the chat room and those who are watching. And a bunch of you are on Twitter at 365 Sports YT and the Sikkim 365 app. Tomorrow, back at it. Paul with Triple Option at 1. We're back at 3. Thank you for your time. I'm David Smoke. Good night.